Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another round of the NXTGEN Racing GT3 League, as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing. We continue the story of Season 4 with round 7 of 8 today, and well, with it being round 7, it's the penultimate round, and it is our final sprint and feature combination round. And we are here in Canada for it at the one and only Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Located in the region of Bowmanville, in close proximity to the city, in the Ontario state of Canada. It is a circuit which is infamous in the country as being one of the premier racing venues outside of perhaps the streets in Montreal. Because whilst at Circuit Charles Villeneuve it may be more infamous for its Formula 1 Grand Prix and its hybrid street circuit, this circuit should not be underestimated for its ability to bring together some fast flying racing action from race to race and corner to corner. Because at its core is a 2.45 mile circuit that has remained mostly unchanged since its opening in 1961, with the only major change being as a result of the contributions of Formula 1 legend Sir Stirling Moss from the United Kingdom, whereby he recommended that one of the hairpins of this circuit, or the sole hairpin, be split into a double apex hairpin rather than a standard hairpin. But beyond that, this circuit has remained unchanged. It's one of the fastest circuits you can find on the North American continent, and with it comes the whole concept of risk versus reward. Plenty of sweeping corners, plenty of elevation changes on corner entry through the corner exit, and with a good number of these corners all being about confidence and your ability to place faith in the car and your own ability to be able to carry the speed from corner entry past the apex and on towards the next corner, it means that for our drivers it's going to be about getting it right, and if you do so you may just be coming out on top. However, get it wrong and you may find yourself vulnerable to an overtake from a rival behind, or worse, you may end up on the grass and perhaps making your way down the order very rapidly indeed. As our drivers get ready to go racing today, we welcome you all to this live broadcast from circuit side, being brought to you live by free media platforms for your viewing pleasure. Firstly, we have the two official NXTGEN Racing media channels in the form of, firstly, the YouTube channel, youtube.com, search for NXTGEN Racing, and welcome to you guys and girls tuning in there. Alternative, if you're more of a Facebook user, you can be tuning live right now via the official Facebook group of NXTGEN Racing. That's at facebook.com/groups/NXTGEN Racing. And lastly, we do have the unofficial broadcast being brought to you via Twitch at twitch.tv/TX141. And well, the question you may be asking at this point is, as we welcome you on Twitch and also to Facebook, the question you may be asking is, who is TX141? Well, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. Now we're bringing you all your racing action from circuit side today. today and indeed for the entirety of the season. And what a season it has been thus far, and we've still got a few treats in store. As we can see, we started off all the way back on the 28th of June at the Sebring International Raceway in the United States of America, particularly in the US state of Florida. Our first sprint and feature race round was one to remember. In fact, it was the Chris Shorter Academy teams that absolutely dominated in the charge at the front of the field, with Chris Shorter and Stephen Wessels really leading the way, particularly in the sprint and also the feature, albeit a couple of instances further down the order, upsetting the field to a degree. And then in our second round on the 12th of July, we made our way across the Pacific Ocean to Japan for the start of a Japanese doubleheader that kicked off at the Fuji International Speedway. In Japan, we got to see even more of Stephen Wessels absolutely delivering from the front of the field, and meanwhile, by comparison, further down the field, we got to see the rise of Sergio Gonzalez Martin for KFM Motorsport, who put in an absolutely stellar performance in the silver class. But then looking ahead to round number 3, our first endurance race round at the season at Suzuka, the Suzuka International Racing Course playing host to our drives on the 26th of July, and there was all about pace versus strategy, and well, that was articulated in the form of Stephen Wessels versus Gavan Garner in the gold class, where we got to see Gavan Garner take the win on strategy and an absolutely compelling last couple of laps. Meanwhile, further down the field, we got to see surprises aplenty, particularly in the bronze class, where it looked as though nobody wanted to win the bronze class race, but in the end, Elwin Sykes was able to come out on top there. It was a thriller, and at one point, it was almost Daniel Fritz was going to take the win until an unfortunate spin. Then round number 4 at the midpoint of the season, we made our way to Road America on the 9th of August, and there for our third sprint and feature race combination, we got to see the Wisconsin State Circuit deliver what it does best, classic style, hard on the brakes, flat out throttle racing. And then going in to was round number 5 at the Nürburgring combined. Our second endurance race round of the season was not without drama, and indeed we got to see drama up and down the field from the open lap all the way to the conclusion, with multiple drivers having to retire before they even made it onto the Nordschleife loop on the open lap. But still, we also had surprises there, and perhaps the most notable one being the fact that Alfonso Marin, our silver class driver for KFM Motorsport Yellow, took the overall win, the first driver in a less than top class in the GT3 League hosted by NXTGEN to take an overall win, making history there in Season 4 of this series. But after the 23rd of August, in round number 6, last time out, we made our way to the United Kingdom for the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, and on the 13th of September, well, Silverstone definitely delivered in the fact we had plenty of battling and action in both of our races, albeit plenty of drama as well, and quite a few instances. In fact, I do believe there were 19 as 1-9 instance reported by our drivers to the stewards, and our stewards had a very busy weekend getting all those incidents resolved, and well, they frankly have been resolved now, but definitely in the United Kingdom a few tempers flared. Everyone was seeing a bit of red, and hopefully they'll bring it back down to terra firma today in terms of those tempers, albeit they may be seeing red, but only in the form of the red of the Canadian flag as they take on the Mosport circuit this 20th of September for the final sprint and feature race round. And after today, our season finale will be in 2 weeks' time on the 4th of October, and that'll be at the Circuit des 24 Heures du Mans, also known as Le Mans, located nearby the city of Le Mans, and will the French circuit, an absolute iconic piece in the world of motorsport, and it's going to be our iconic conclusion to this season in our final endurance race round of the season. And well, there's a reason why we're putting it right at the end, and we'll come on to that in the next broadcast in 2 weeks from now. But coming back to today then, let's give you a recap of the championship standings after 6 rounds, and these championship standings now do account for drop scores for our drivers, so therefore these are the accurate points which our drivers will be seeing going into these last 2 rounds. Indeed, the drop scores are all accounted for, and we start off with the Gold Drivers' Championship. And as we can see, Stephen Wessels leads the way on 178 points, 8 clear of Akram Zinoune. And right now, it is a top 3 separated by only 8 points, because also Gavan Garner on 170 points, but only behind Akram Zinoune based on result countback. These 3 have all been pushing hard. Stephen Wessels has always been one step ahead, it would seem. If it's not on pace, then it's been on strategy or vice versa, albeit we have had those brilliant moments from both Akram Zinoune, who has definitely got plenty of pace to go with him in the Mercedes AMG, and Gavan Garner as well, putting in some great results in the Ferrari 488 Evo, but it is the Porsche 992 driver Stephen Wessels who has just stepped one step clear each time, and he's looking to continue to do so today, albeit I do wonder whether he'll feel as though a bit of pressure is on him, given the fact that time is running out in this championship, and that gap is not growing, it's only staying close. Meanwhile, in P4, it's Benjamin McCluskey who picked up the fastest lap in both of the sprint and the feature races, and really was the man to keep your eyes on last time out at Silverstone in the gold class, being able to usurp Stephen Wessels in his own Porsche 992. And then Victor Shimura at P5 down 117 points, really the best of the rest currently, with a sizable gap between himself and McCluskey. That gap now spanning in the best part of what is 42 points, and in return the best part of 22 points clear of Matt Shorter, with Gaz Williams, Jonathan Cook, Gianni Tahart and Chris T. Shorter completing the top 10. And outside the top 10 from 82 points in the form of the South African Chris Shorter, we do have on 38 points there Adam Delmont, a sizable gap, but he's P11, 1 point clear of Joe Newman, with Miguel Gutierrez Garcia P13. And it's Eric Rosev, Jamie Dory and Jan Crack who will be completing the standings. standings there, albeit unfortunately Jan Crack will not be seen on the grid for the remainder of this season due to personal circumstances, but it's nothing bad. I do believe he's on a business trip to the United States at the moment, and we wish him well with that. But as we come on to our silver class drivers, we can see Russell Fowler leads the way here, but only by 6 points ahead of Sergio Gonzalez Martin. It's a two-horse race here in this silver class championship, and for the first part of the season, it was Gonzalez Martin who was leading the way, but now Fowler has struck the balance and found his way back ahead. However, consistency has been ever key, and Russell Fowler right now has continued to try and enable himself some consistency, whereas Gonzalez Martin really has been the driver whose consistency earlier in the season is now reaping the benefits when those drop scores are accounted for. However, both drivers today will be looking to go for the ultimate prize, which is a win in both races, in order to get the advantage going into the season finale, and they'll need their teammates in this class and the other classes to help them out as much as possible. Tristan Engelstad P3, by comparison 154 points, he's the best part there, 39 points off of what is the top two, but he'll be still looking for that P3 prize. 10 points clear of Alfonso F. Marin, with David Camano there completing the top 5 on 128 points. Instead of further 4 points to Lee Horn in P6, with 12 points to Nessa de Fuente. Then we have Tom Bingham, Ben Bennyworth and Jack Barker who complete your top 10. P11, best of the rest there, it's Matthew Addy on 59 points, 2 clear of Stefan Albanese, who picked up the fastest lap in the feature race last time out, and an absolute phenomenal performance in the feature race, it must be said, for the Italian driver in the DRS Esports machine. And then the first 6 points behind is Paul Scott, with Jochen Seeger, Luke Eaglin and Paul Williams completing your silver class standings. And then lastly coming on to the bronze class here, and as we can see, Nigel Stott leads the way on 187 points, and now he's made it 2 rounds where it's been back-to-back double wins in the sprint and feature combination, and Nigel Stott really the man to beat here as the championship continues to wind towards its conclusion. Elwyn Sykes, the closest driver to him, 23 points behind, and then we have Sean Scudder a further 14 points behind, but it does seem as though Nigel Stott right now unconquerable, or will he be? He's still got 2 rounds to go, and he's had some bad luck at the start of the season. He'll be hoping that bad luck continues to stay away with all the good luck coming his way. Elwyn Sykes will be happy with the P2 thus far and be eager to keep it and keep Nigel Stott honest, with Sean Scudder in that P3 position, still wondering where all the points have gone, given the fact he was our championship leader in the first half of the season by a staggering margin, and now has been brought back down to P3, and he'll be looking for a late resurgence in the championship standings. Jordan Baywa, P4, the defending champion, on 144 points, and I believe this will be the last round we see him on the grid for this season due to personal circumstances, so therefore Baywa will be missing his title defence, albeit he'll be looking to try and end his campaign on a high today, with a 2-point advantage over Daniel Fritz, and it's Alexander Rogenbach outside the top 5 by a further 6 points off of Fritz, and still trying to push back into the top 5, and we do know the German driver has that potential to do so, he just needs to have things go his way. Davide Favo P7 ahead of Jorge Santos, with Wesley Lewin and Craig Tillerston completing your top 10, and we do say hello there to Jorge Santos in the YouTube chat, who's not going to be joining us on circuit today, but I believe he will be tuning in, and we're very happy to have you with us, Jorge, and I hope you're doing very well. We then have Mark Sykes, P11, best of the rest on 75 points. He's the best part of what is there, 15 points. In fact, yes, it is 15 points, as our mathematics is double-checked in the mind by James Smax's Gal. And then we have John Meredith, P13, ahead of Matthew Cheverton, with Jake Pitt, Josh Brown and Daniel Stimman completing at your championship standings. Now, coming on to the Teams Championship, meanwhile, here we can see the delta at the top has changed in the fact it's KFM Motorsport Red who lead the way, but KFM Motorsport Yellow have now moved into P2 for the first time this season, and they've snuck ahead of Chris Shorter Academy Pink. The gap between the two teams there in the battle for P2 is only 6 points, but the point being that right now KFM Motorsport Red are on their way to potentially secure the Teams Championship come the end of today. We'll have to wait and have that confirmation at the start of round number 8 in 2 weeks' time, but with their advantage now is spanning the best part of what is their 37 points. They'll feel confident if they get a good set of results on the board today, it's all said and done. However, outside the top 3, we have Chris Shorter Academy Blue. They are the best part there of what is 36 points off of the pink team, and then it's Performance Lane Esports to complete the top 5 on 316 points apiece with Chris Shorter Academy Blue, but join on result countback. And we can then see NXTGEN Team Purple in P6 on 300 points. They're the best part, 24 points, Chris Shorter Academy Green, with Crest Autosport, NXTGEN Team Pink and Quad Dash Racing completing the top 10. And outside the top 10, not to be forgotten about, NXTGEN Team Red ahead of Aztec Racing, with FR20 Sim Racing and Meredith Racing completing your standings. Now, going on to our circuit for today, well, it's none other than the Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. There's only one layout available, and it is the Grand Prix layout, located near the town of Bowmanville in the Durham region of Ontario in Canada. Well, this circuit, it looks simple on paper, and indeed, thank you to iRacing for their brilliant circuit maps that come with the absolutely fantastic simulator. 10 corners, 2.45 miles of circuit. However, beyond that, this circuit diagram does not show you the three-dimensional traits of the circuit. In the fact that 2D diagram will show you sweeping corners, and it shows you the hairpin in the form of Moss Corner. However, what it doesn't show is the fact you've got constant elevation changes from corner to corner and also going from corner entry into corner exit. As our drivers make their way across the start finish line in towards turn number 1, it's a downhill drop through the right-hander, a very fast-flying right-hander that's cambered on the apex but off camber on entry and exit. But as they make their way through the right-hander, they'll head up the hill towards Clayton Corner at turn number 2, and there it's a blind rise, and over the crest they'll go home to break into an apex that they can't see, before they make their way through the long downhill left-hander and up towards Quebec Corner at turn number 3. Now drivers will go up a slight elevation rise and come on through what is a very long apex run, indeed a very late apex required there, and as they make their way out of turn number 3, it's a flat-out run down through 4, up into Moss Corner at turn number 5, named after Sir Stirling Moss, and indeed a corner that was once a very tight hairpin, and now it's a double apex hairpin, as our drivers look to nail those apexes in a U shape, and as they make their way out of turn number 5, it's the flat-out charge down the Mario Andretti straightway through the kinks of 6 and 7. Then for the final 3 major corners, the drivers will make their way into the S's at turn number 8. Indeed, turn number 8 being a very late apex there, where you want to carry as much speed as possible, where you switch back into left-hander at turn number 9, and up into White's Corner at turn number 10, a deceptively slow corner, where you think you can carry a lot of speed, but carry too much speed, and you'll end up in the grass. And that'll be one lap, and they'll go on to another there, and look to continue to do so, but consistency is going to be ever critical here today. So going on to our rules for today. Setup-wise, this is a fixed setup series with setups provided ahead of each and every round by the NXTGEN Racing Administration. Drivers are not permitted to change cars since the conclusion of round number 5. And driver class-wise, driver classes have been finalised as the conclusion of round 3. Although we do have a new driver on the grid today, and that will be in the form of Gabriel Yilmaz. And I do believe we'll be seeing Yilmaz join in the silver class. That's what we've been advised. And then as we see in qualifying, an open qualifying format shall be used. So we will have 20 minutes of qualifying with all the drivers out on circuit together. And then as we look over to the rules, we can see in terms of the sprint race, the race shall commence via a rolling start in the designated green flag zone, with drivers having 1 faster pair available. Drivers shall receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 15 or more instant points in the sprint race, and that will be up to 25 instant points in the feature race. Again, in the feature, we do have the rolling start in the designated green flag zone, with drivers now having 2 faster pairs available. The grid order shall be a reverse grid based on class, based on results of the sprint race, with drivers who did not finish the sprint race starting from the back of their respective class, and drivers are required to make 1 mandatory pit stop in the feature race, in which fuel must be taken, but changing tyres is entirely optional. Now, we did omit it at the start of the broadcast, but we're going to very quickly look back and take you through the schedule for today. Times in British Summer Time, that's BST, or Universal Coordinated Time +1 at UTC +1. And as we can see, in just under 30 seconds, we're going into our 20-minute qualifying session with all the drivers out on circuit, after which we'll go straight to the grid for our first race of the day, the 20-minute sprint, and then we'll take a breather before returning at what will be about 5 to 10 minutes before 9 this evening for the build-up to our feature race. 60 minutes in duration, 3 times the length of the sprint, and well, 3 times the action expected, of course, going into that more strategic race. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, as all our drivers now get themselves set, the checker flag comes out on this warm-up session, and it's time for our drivers to make their way into the pit lane before heading back out into qualifying. And who will come out on top here at the Bowmanville circuit? Let's find out. So as qualifying gets underway, it's go, go, go for all the drivers right now, and everyone will be eager to make the way out the pit lane as soon as humanly possible. And you can understand why, as Jamie Dory, the first driver to make his way on out here in the McLaren MP412C. And as he rolls his way out the pit lane, we say hello to a good number of you in the respective chats, whether it be in the YouTube chat to Jorge Santos, who we talked a little bit about earlier, or alternatively there, Costa Chats Continental, who says, decided to see what it's like before I join next season. We'd love to see you on the grid for Season 5, Costa, there's no doubt about that. We also say hello there in the Facebook chat to Darren Doherty, I should say, a name I haven't seen in a little while, and I hope you're doing well, Darren. Good evening to you. And indeed, Darren, a veteran of the GT3 League. Indeed, some of you who are old-time tuners, you may remember the fact that he did tune in, or not tune in, he did race in Seasons 1 and 2, if my memory serves me correctly, and racing in what was the mid-tier class at the time, back when we had the AM, Pro-Am, and also the Pro system there, and I believe putting in an absolutely phenomenal set of results in his respective class, not taking the championship crown quite, but still competing for a top 5. We also do say hello there in the Twitch chat to GZen Higher there, who says, be out here, Paul. Should be some great drafting fun coming out of the Mario Andretti straight away. And indeed, it is going to be interesting to see all the drivers drafting the way along there, and we do look from the McLaren of Jamie Dory to the BMW M4 of Nigel Stock as he weaves his way through the S's here. And we also say hello to Corporal Collins there in the YouTube chat, who says, let's hope someone doesn't run out of fuel this race, unlike last week. Indeed, a number of drivers falling foul of fuel right at the end in the feature race, but as they make their way on around here right now, everybody getting themselves set up for success for the first time today as they go on to their maiden qualifying laps here at the Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, and we'll abbreviate it to Mosport, or cut down to Mosport I should say, and we're going to refer to it in full as they roll the way through turn number 2. You can see that downhill drop, absolutely savage drop down the hill, but the drivers coming in towards turn number 3 right now. Nigel Stock absolutely composed and all set and raring to go. As the drivers make the way on around here, what does it take to deliver a good qualifying lap at the Canadian Tire Motorsport Park? Here you ask. Well, the key thing around here is you've got to have confidence in your abilities and how the car feels underneath you. In the fact that around this circuit, once you commit to most corners, you will be at the mercy of how much speed you carried into the corner, how much steering lock you applied, and also how comfortable the car will be in terms of that setup, which has been spec to the car, and then your ability to master that setup. So around here, it's very easy to make a mistake, and therefore you've got to be absolutely pinpoint precise in your approach to each and every corner. And well, when you do that correctly, it feels like a dream, but when you get it wrong very slightly, you very quickly find your rhythm is disrupted, and therefore in this qualifying session, it is going to feel like it's a bit of a rhythm-based session. And in fact, these initial qualifying laps, we'll see our first fast laps, they're going to be well off the target pace for drivers. I suspect we're going to be seeing quite a few 15s here today in the gold class, and it will be 16s for the silver and the bronze classes to target. But as time goes on in the session, we will see those times come on down as Akram and Zinoune breaks into the 15s immediately. And Gavan does the same down to 15.606, so the markers being laid down here, but the point being, the more laps the drivers can get underneath them, they will start to find those lap times very quickly start to come down. Indeed, that rhythm starts to build up, and Stephen Wessels immediately on a 15.194, absolute monstrous lap there as he makes his way now into turn at number 2, and the Chris Shorter Academy driver absolutely flying as he brings his way through 2 and in towards 3. And well, wouldn't be surprised at this rate where we see some potential 14s also on the time in town as he makes his way through turn number 3. But the Porsche 992 driver definitely going all in straight away in this qualifying session and trying to put down a marker is which is the fact that he wants to be the one today who really tries to give himself a bit more breathing room in that Gold Class Drivers' Championship. But we're going to that season finale. You can understand why, because the pressure is on for the South African driver as he makes his way out of turn number 5 and onto the Mario Andretti straightaway. As he heads on down and up towards the S's, and meanwhile we do look from him to one of our Ford GTs out on circuit, just a bit further up the road, and that's the former Matthew Sheraton, the Aztec Racing driver in the bronze class here, making his way in towards turn number 8, and coming on through the right into left as he brings his way around. Car rejoining just in front of him, that's Nigel Stock, who's had a bit of a moment with the grass there, a bit of a rally cross line, and as we do see Sheraton rolling his way out of the final corner, all 6 cylinders of that Ford GT absolutely roaring to their maximum, and going on to another lap of 17.422 there, but his previous best has been a 16.94. I think that might have been a setup lap for the next one. But looking from him to Jonathan Cook, and we do see Cook rolling his way through 2 into 3 right now. We did have the opportunity to catch up with the Performance League esports drivers, particularly Jonathan Cook in the build-up to today. And he was saying about the fact that he and Russell Fowler, 2 teammates on the grid. We haven't got Tom Bingham here as I understand it. We do have Fowler and Cook. They were saying about the fact they were looking forward to the penultimate round of this season. And for Jonathan in particular, or Jono as he's known, 2 friends and family, it's his first time driving this circuit. He feels as though he's really come to grips with it rather rapidly, and he's coming off at Silverstone with high confidence. And he talks about the fact in the post-round interview at the last time out at Silverstone that whilst the results were not great, they were not indicative of how he felt with the car and how he felt the pace was coming through at Silverstone. I think that's coming forward with him today, going into the Mosport circuit, and well, he's been able to narrow his up small lap times in practice earlier on in the week, and we'll be looking forward to seeing how far he can rise up the board in the gold class. He's P4 currently, so that's definitely a sign. And he's 3.5 tenths off the best of his pole lap, but still more time to come here, we reckon, as he heads to the timeline. Sergio Gonzalez goes at silver pole position provisional on a 15.445, and he's the best part of only 300ths faster than Russell Fowler. So you can see there already the top 2 belligerents in the silver class exchanging lap times. But coming back to talking about the Performance League esports drivers, and particularly Jonathan Cook, he was saying about the fact that BMW does struggle here with the rear tyres, particularly when it comes to overheat in a very warm circuit in general. We'll talk a bit more about the weather shortly and why the tyres overheat so aggressively here. But because of that, and he feels as though that Russell Fowler may be subject to the same in the Mercedes AMG, therefore they're going to need to conserve the tyres, particularly when they go into the feature race, as otherwise there could be quite a bit of drama for such a high commitment circuit. But as for his personal objectives here, his target is to do well, but to also support his teammate Russell Fowler as much as possible. There's an opportunity to do so. So therefore, he'd like to give him as much help towards that silver championship crown. And we will, meanwhile, for Russell, as we do look to his teammate, and what we said he was in a Mercedes only moments ago. No, he's also in the BMW M4. Apologies for that error there. But the fact right now that Russell Fowler under a bit of pressure in the fact that within the silver class, there's quite a few Canadian Motorsport drivers, and will understandably Canadian Motorsport, and it would be the same if we did have Constantly Esports have multiple of their drivers in the silver class. So they're going to be trying to work together in order to enable Sergio Gonzalez Martin in order to take victory here, albeit they'll do it fairly, of course, but when they do see Fowler coming up behind, they'll probably make it as hard as possible, like we saw at Silverstone, where Fowler had an opportunity to try and gain some huge points on Sergio Gonzalez Martin, but every time he came up behind a Canadian Motorsport driver to make a move for position, well, in the end, they absolutely dug in, wanting to hold on to their own places, but also held out Sergio Gonzalez Martin, who had a disastrous day, particularly in that feature race by comparison. So Fowler will be feeling as though he needs to navigate his way, but also qualifying will do him very well, as the Akram zone going a bit wide, then brings the car back onto the circuit quite safely in the end. Just a small error, but as he makes his way on down the Marandrati straightaway here, Russell Fowler all set in. It's always good to hear the thoughts of our respective drivers, and we're hearing from the Constantly Esports drivers there just before we win racing. But now, coming back to the qualifying session itself, as we look to Mark Sykes in the Ferrari 488 Evo, making his way on around and going on through turn number 5, goes a bit deep there at the Moss hairpin, and therefore brings it back on in the wonderful livery machine, as created by Mark Sykes himself, Mark Sykes Designs. Indeed, if you're looking for a livery, it's got an iRacing machine, whether you're looking for a replica or something entirely personal to you, Mark Sykes Designs is the place to go to. As they make their way up towards turn number 8 right now. He's currently Peter in the bronze class, definitely putting some good laps, but it is Sean Scudder who is the fastest man in the bronze class by 3/10 currently as we head towards the end of the first half of this qualifying session. And feeling quite comfortable in the car right now as the BMW M4 driver. Nigel Stock by comparison P4, but keep in mind that Nigel Stock right now, he can afford just to finish behind his rivals and just build up those major points, finish 1 or 2 places behind, and he'll be safe. Scudder meanwhile has got to go for dominance today and make sure he gets the maximum possible point total on the board, as otherwise he'll be losing out come the end of the season in 2 weeks' time. As he makes his way down through turn number 4 in the drop there and into the rise of the braking zone into Moss. Coming on down there, goes a little bit too wide, deep on his braking zone, I should say, and ends up going wide as a result. And it's so easy to miss your braking zone there, even in these cars with the anti-lock braking systems. As we see another car, that's Jonathan Cook, also repeating the error. Sean Scudder will be able to avoid the tyre barrier a little bit more gracefully, perhaps. Both drivers there getting it wrong, but meanwhile one driver is absolutely getting it right. It's Stephen Wessels. He's now improved the pole time overall in the gold class to 14.773, almost half a second faster than anybody else. He is absolutely soaring right now, and well, this is phenomenal stuff from Wessels, it must be said, as he comes up through turn number 3 and onwards towards 4 or 5 he goes. It does look as though here the Porsche 992 driver absolutely clocked and locked in. I think we could be seeing even better times towards the end of the session. But talking a little bit about the weather here today, we said it's a very warm circuit. Well, it's a deceptively warm circuit in the fact that you see the ambient temperature there 18 degrees centigrade and a track temperature 26 degrees centigrade. We've got quite a bit of cloud here with some sunshine as well, so that track temperature will gradually rise as the sessions go on, but at the same time it's not going to rise too aggressively. So you may be wondering right now, why exactly is there such a risk for our drivers to overheat their tyres here at this circuit? Well, the simple reason being there are a large number of traction zones at this circuit, whether it be the run through turn number 1 or alternatively the run out of turn number 5, the key traction zone where you want to get the power down as soon as possible to return to flat out, where you charge your way down towards when it's turn at number 8. Well, all that puts an excessive amount of heat into the rear tyres, and therefore that can lead to very rapid rear tyre wear, and that's what catches drivers out, particularly in the longer race, in the feature race, but in those 60 minutes, most of our drivers will try to avoid changing tyres where possible, and indeed they only have enough time in the pit lane normally to change 1 or 2 tyres, given the fact tyres are changed at the same time the fuel goes into the car due to a change of iRacing regulations as of the start of 2023, if my memory serves me correctly, and therefore our drivers will need to prioritise which tyres they protect versus which ones they push harder and can afford to change in the pit lane. As we look to Wesley Lewin, making his way out of turn number 5 and down the Marandrati straightaway through 6 and 7. Right now P7 in the bronze class, he is the best part there of what is 100 of Matthew Cheverton's time in P6, and therefore looking to try and close up as much as humanly possible as he makes his way out towards turn number 8 here, getting himself comfortably set to come towards the end of the lap. And very shortly we are going to get an on-board lap with one of our drivers. to give you an idea of what it's like to the lap around the Mosport circuit. I believe we will get on board today with Gavan as he makes about the final corner, and as he does so, let's jump aboard with the Ferrari 488 Evo driver. Making his way into turn number 1 and turns in early here in the tow of Jamie Dory. The two NXTGEN Racing and Pink Drive trying to work together. As Garner now makes his way into turn number 2, up to 5th gear, then down to 4th, to trail braking, and now down the drop there through turn number 2, building up the speed once again up into 5th gear as he brings the car to the left hand side and braking about 100 metres from corner apex. But it's such a long corner, turn number 3, as he comes on around and now down towards turn number 5, building up the speed here, heading very shortly up into what will be a 5th gear, lifting off I think slightly there as he came on down, so we can get a bit too close to the back of Dory for comfort. Making his way into Moss corner and down to 1st gear, the slightest corner on the circuit. He has to join the dots together there in terms of the two apexes as he now makes his way out, flat out all the way towards the S's here, building up the speed. And we do know this Ferrari is very fast on the straights, particularly when it's in the tow of another car, but it does struggle, oddly enough, in 6th gear when it's without the tow. So he makes his way up, in fact, lifting off the throttle once again and trying, I think, to set himself up for a better qualifying lap and a bit more tow off of Jamie Dory. So as they come through turn number 8, it's not going to be the most aggressive lap compared to what it could be in the S's, but you can see they're fourth down to 3rd, and he transitions from turn 8 to turn 9 and brings the car to the left hand side down to 2nd gear for turn number 10, and that will complete the lap as Gardner now goes on to a more aggressive lap. We jump out the car there and follow him from the exterior cameras as he makes his way on around, and also Jamie Dory leading the two of them around here. He's currently P6 in the McLaren MP412C and looking for a bit more lap time out there. It's very fast in the practice session, but right now not quite able to replicate the heroics of practice in this qualifying session as he loses the rear coming out of 2, and well, catching the car before it goes to the wall, thankfully lands it on the grass. But the point being that it's so easy to get it wrong in these cars, particularly as they make their way out of turn number 2, and the fact you have a major weight transfer coming into the corner versus coming out of the corner, and Dory falling foul of that. As we do say hello in the Twitch chat there to DSR Carhay 411, who is cheering on Commander and Shmaro for KFM. And as I try to make the way on through here, we still do have the best part of 7 minutes of qualifying left to go, and well, looking to what is none other than Esther Fuente as he heads on through turn number 10. And he's currently P3 in the silver class. He is 2/10 of the Sergio Gonzalez, who in turn is 2.5 of the pole time set by Russell Fowler provisionally. So it looks as though silver class qualifying is going the way of Russell Fowler currently, but then again, Gonzalez Martin can surprise us all before everything is said and done. And looking at those overall standings, because this is how they'll line up for our first race of the day. Remember, there's no class segregation for the grid in our sprint race. How they qualify is how they line up. And with Russell Fowler P2 currently, absolutely in fine form there. You'd think he was a gold class driver given the lap times, but he's not necessarily always been up there in terms of lap times, and that's why he's in the silver class of this season, in the fact that he does have those moments of gold pace, but really right now his pace does oscillate between silver and gold, and well, he does have what is that silver to gold consistency as well. So I suspect all going well this season, next season we will see him moved up to the gold class given his performances, but we'd have to wait and see. Again, that's just a prediction or a hypothesis if you will, it's nothing certain. As we say hello there to Michael Price in the YouTube chat, and good evening to you, Michael. Wagwan, as you say, and I hope you're doing that very well. And Fuente right now rolling his way through turn 8 into 9 and looking quite nicely set up there in the BMW M4. But say you may be wondering which cars are expected to be strong around here. Well, oddly enough, this is a circuit that does have a mix of aspects or characteristics, so therefore there's going to be no one car that arguably will be the fastest around here, albeit Stephen Wessels I think would be putting an argument out to say the Porsche 992 is pretty fast around here, given the fact he is 4.5 times faster than anybody else in this qualifying session. And also the Chris Shorter Academy driver has been absolutely sublime in qualifying pace all season. To be fair, he's put in the most pole laps of any driver across the classes and overall, and it goes to show with the gap he has here. Coming back to an initial point, the Porsche is going to be very strong in the first half of the lap. We do have that whole multitude of direction changes from turn 1 up towards turn number 5. But on the exit of this corner, when you do have that long back straight, the Mario Andretti straightaway, well, that is where you'll see the likes of the BMW and also with the Mercedes AMG start to counteract the manoeuvrability of the Porsche and say the Ferrari and the McLaren MP412C. So there is that odd balancing act. Wessels makes his way down the back straight here, and the fact that Porsche at this point will be a little bit more vulnerable by comparison, and then it will regain in the S's and into White's corner at turn number 10. But meanwhile, speaking of the drivers, regains some lap time here. He's moved up into P2 overall and in the class standings. It's none other than Benjamin McCuskey, who had gone into P2, still 3.5 tenths or just over of what is Stephen Wessels' pole time. McCluskey now moving his way onto the front row of the grid, putting the marker in. Nobody else able to achieve a 14. Everyone else in the 15s or higher. Wessels, the sole driver who's knocked a 14 in so far. So therefore we are waiting to see if there's any more surprises in the late stage of this qualifying session. And meanwhile, Nigel Stock here, fastest bronze driver, makes his way out of the final corner, and we jump aboard with Stock for a flying lap. As he makes his way into turn number 1, this time charging it into the right-hander, 4th gear with a left as he makes his way out and up towards turn number 2. Hits the rev limiter briefly there before going into 5th gear. Now coming in to turn number 2, lets the car drift a little bit wide to set up a later apex, and now in 4th gear up towards turn number 3, 5th down to 4th once again, down to 3rd there. 2 quick downshifts and will help lift the car up on the rear and rotate it round. He comes out to turn number 3, building up the speed now in the downhill descent from 4 into Moss. As he comes on 3, you can see having to turn over a blind rise there, up into 5th gear and onto the brakes, 150 metres from the centre point of this corner. We would say from apex, but there's 2 apex, and as he comes out of turn number 5 into 1st gear, back up the gearbox now, very quickly ascending through the gearbox up into 4th, and you can see the BMW M4 absolutely rocketing on here as he builds up the speed, upshifting to 5th at 138 miles an hour, and now making his way in towards turn number 8. We won't see him hit 6th gear, which is a bit of an overdrive gear for the BMW M4, and breaking his way down from 155 miles an hour, very early on the trail brake there into the S's, but smooth line on approach. Now bringing it through turn number 9, keep the car to the left hand side for turn number 10, onto the brakes. There's 75 metres from corner apex, 2nd gear takes a bit of apex curve with him. Car heavy enough to balance it. He's got purple in subsector 1. Has he been able to improve? He has, but Matthew Sheraton is the fastest in the bronze class right now by the best part of 600s, and that lap is coming very recently from Sheraton, so prize to be sure, but a welcome one at that for the Ford GT driver. And we'll right now the Aztec Racing drive at 600s faster than Stock, and we're going to have a Ford GT BMW M4 front row for the bronze class, and now that will be a sight to see. As meanwhile, further imprints for Jonathan Cook, he's moved P2 in the gold class and overall on a 15.075, so inching closer and closer. The Wessels is a break into the 14s. However, still that gap of 3 tenths there. Gaz Williams meanwhile breaks into the 14s, or does he? No, he doesn't. He misses out by the best part of 16 thousandths there on where's a 15.016. The times continue to charge in. Cook into the pit lane. That will be his qualifying session done and dusted, unless he quickly heads out the pit lane, but I don't think he's going to have enough time. But meanwhile, Williams here, a bit of company behind his left of the Fuente, moves the P2 in the silver class off camera of 15.348. He's at 1.5 tenths off of Russell Fowler, so it does look as though Canadian Motorsport not quite able to upset the abilities of the Ponceling Esports driver and taking that silver pole. So it will be all about the battle into turns 1 and 2. But as we do see there, Williams goes very deep, and as he does so, will be followed by Benjamin McCluskey. I think the 2 teammates here trying to work together to set up a lap as Nigel Stock returns to the top of the bronze class on a 15.523, 2.5 tenths faster than Matthew Sheraton's time. So Nigel Stock definitely having some in reserve as Gavan moves up to P4 in the gold class, and overall on what is there a 15.10. He's only in return now 200ths of a Jonathan Cook's time. So these lap times from all the drives continue to come down, but it's right at the end of the session when the track is rubbered up, also the track temperature will be its highest here, so it means the tires get switched on very quickly, but you can't afford to push them too hard too soon, otherwise you will end up with some graining. And as they make the way on around across the line, Alfonso Marion P5 in the silver class at 16.193, and we've got 20 seconds left on the clock before we go into overtime. A large number of drivers are already in the pit lane as we look to Victor Chamorro, who goes wide there at 2. The Ferrari taking a bit of a rally cross line on corner X. He brings it around through turn number 3, but that's going to cost him very dearly for the Canadian Motorsport driver, and now he'll know in the fact that this will be a lap. We can't really do much more with it other than potentially give a little bit of tow to perhaps one of his teammates out on circuit, and we'll have to wait and see what happens. It'll be Sergio Gonzalez, who's just behind him in the Ferrari, who could effectively give the tow to, but I think they're too far away from one another right now to be able to entertain that prospect. You see Gonzalez going quite slightly out the hairpin, clipping too much of the apex curve. But meanwhile, making his way up towards the final couple of corners, this is Deborah Camano, as we do see the Canadian Motorsport red driver coming through the left-hand return number 9 into whites at turn number 10, but into the pit lane. He decides it's not enough to improve, so that's his qualifying session done and dusted. And then we do have Sergio Gonzalez here, making his way into turn number 8, but he finds quite a bit of traffic in front of him. And well, that's going to be frustrating. It's his teammates as well, but perhaps they just line up for a formation pit entry here for the advertisers, and then the sponsors, I should say. as he comes on out there, indeed, in to the pit lane they go. McCluskey, meanwhile, across the line. I don't think there's going to be an improvement from Benjamin McCluskey. And then we do have what is, I believe, Sean Scudder, who will be our final driver out on circuit on quote-unquote a lap. But in fact, he's just doing a cool-down lap to get into the pits. That is qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen. And well, it is Stephen Wessels on overall pole and gold pole by 2.5 attempts. The only driver to do a 14 in this qualifying session. And then in what will be P6 overall, but silver pole is Russell Fowl for Performance Link Esports, and in the bronze class it will be Sean Scudder for what is there, the Chris Shorter Academy team, who takes pole in the bronze class, and it equates to P10 overall, and he managed to beat Nigel Stock to pole position by 2.5 hundredths in the end. It's an incredibly close qualifying session. Matthew Sheraton, meanwhile, a further 2.5 attempts down that battle for bronze pole, but he'll be happy in the fact the Ford GT up inside the top 3 of the bronze class and not too far out of the hunt, but definitely a challenging qualifying session for many, and perhaps the biggest surprise of them all right now is the fact that Jamie Dory and Gianni Tahar, P78 in the gold class, well, they'll be starting at what will be P12, P13, and well out of position there compared to where we're used to seeing them. But with that, it's time for us to head to the grid for our first race of the day. It's the 20-minute sprint, and here's how they line up. So Stephen Wessels takes pole position for CSA Pink ahead of Gaz Williams for NXTGEN Racing Team Purple. Behind them on the gold front row, it is a gold second row in the form of Jonathan Cook for Performance Link Esports, who's joined by NXTGEN Racing Team Pink's Gavan Gardner. On row at number 3, it's Benjamin McCluskey, who lines up P5 for NXTGEN Racing Team Purple, joined by your silver pole sitter of Russell Fowler for Performance Link Esports. And on row number 4, it's the silver pair Ernesto de Fuente for Canadian Motorsport Yellow, and his teammate Sergio Gonzalez Martin. Both of them will be eager to get ahead of Russell Fowler into turn 1. Akram Zinoune, P9 then for Canadian Motorsport Red. He's followed up by Sean Scudder for CSA Blue, our bronze pole sitter, and with it he will be completing at the top 10. It's Nigel Stock P11 there for Crest Autosport, joined by Jamie Dory for NXTGEN Racing at Team Pink. And on row at number 7, it will be the pair, I do believe, of what will be Gianni Tahar for Quad Dash Racing and Aztec Racing's Matthew Sheraton. David Camano starts P15 for Canadian Motorsport Red, joined by Canadian Motorsport Yellow's Victor Chamorro, with Elwin Sykes starting P17 for CSA Green, joined by Canadian Motorsport Red's Alfonso Marin, who starts P18. The top 20 is completed on row number 10 by Mark Sykes for NXTGEN Racing Team Red, and he's joined by CSA Pink's Wesley Lewin, who starts P20. P21 is Davide Favo for CSA Blue, joined by Aztec Racing's Jane Pitt, P22 on the 11th row of the grid, and there'll be Alex Rogenbach P23 ahead of Gabriel Yilmaz, the only driver not to put a lap time in, and I believe the Aztec Racing driver may not be making it to the grid due to a technical issue with the car, so it means we'll have 23 starters here in our first race of the day, and we are only 30 seconds away from what will be the formation lap here at the Mosport circuit. And as all our drivers get themselves comfortably set, well, we will now have what is the formation lap getting underway, and well, it is going to be quite a long formation lap here, in the fact it is a full formation lap as our drivers just get ready to pull away behind the iRacing automated safety car, and it's the Porsche Cayman as they make their way on down towards turn number 1. We do say hello there to Cup in the YouTube chat. I do believe that's Jake Pitt, unless I'm very much mistaken, who remarks, no clue how Sheraton got that lap time before. There's a handful around here, so kudos to him. Indeed, Matthew Sheraton putting an absolutely phenomenal lap time to get the car right up there. P3 in the bronze class, and at one point potential pole sit in the bronze class, but it wasn't quite to be. But still, the 390 driver here giving it everything in a car that has definitely seen better days in terms of its performance in its yesteryears on iRacing. But that performance still keeps there in terms of being a straight line monster, but not quite having it in the corners anymore with all the weight in the car. But we are expecting it potentially to be replaced by the Ford Mustang GT3 that's due to arrive in the world of real motorsport in 2024, and I suspect it will be arriving in iRacing shortly after that, because we couldn't quite have a GT3 service in iRacing without the Ford Mustang. But we'll have to wait to see what happens there. That's my prediction, ladies and gentlemen. Do let me know what you're looking forward to there with GT3s up front. We've also got a Corvette potentially on the way, but as I try to make the way on down towards turn number 5, Sheraton here getting himself all set. He has the company of Gianni Tahar, and we see Tristan 0507, that's just an Engelstad there in the YouTube chat, cheering on his teammate from Quad Dash Racing, as we see the Mercedes AMG driver just gradually making his way on through the hairpin there. And very difficult this formation lap as well, because they don't really have much room to negotiate in terms of being able to get tyre temperatures. They do really right now have to just sit in formation and do a little bit of brake temperature in terms of charging forward, then putting the brakes on and letting the driver in front break away before rinsing and repeating. But otherwise here it is quite a lap in terms of the fact that they just have to try and get a little bit of tyre temperature, but it's that first lap where all the hard work's got to go in. And as we do see Dar making his way up towards turn 8, we look to the front of the field. Gaz Williams versus Stephen Wessels will nail more iconic duo in terms of battling for wins here, in terms of launches off the line. And as they make the way down towards turn number 8, it'll be Stephen Wessels who will lead the field away this time around. As they make the way towards the final corner, the safety car will start to peel off shortly, and it will be to the mercy of Stephen Wessels. We're sure to Academy Pink to take us to Green Flag Racing for 20 minutes of racing action in the round 7 sprint. He makes his way across the line, it's lights out, away we go for our first race of the day, and Wessels gets a good start, but Gaz Williams tries to go all the way around the outside. It's going to be a tough move to sell, but he tries to commit to it, he can't quite find it, and as all tries to make the way out of turn number 1 in towards turn number 2, they're all safely through the opening corners. We see that move from Gavan up the inside of Jonathan Cook, as Leon McCluskey goes deep through turn 2, but brings it back together for the exit up towards turn number 3, he'll give a defensive line. Meanwhile, Sergio Gonzalez ahead of Akram, Zinoune de Fuente falling back 2 places overall, so it looks though there the silver driver struggling compared to his teammates, but this might be all part of the plan to move Sergio Gonzalez into a position to go hunting after Russell Fowler as they make their way out towards turn number 5 and charging the way down the hill. Jake Pittman will exchanging side by side into turn 4 versus Mark Sykes, but really only one way through there. Mark Sykes holds the position as they make their way through the elongated right-hand hairpin, and as they come on through, the Welshman of Aztec Racing right now deep in the toe and ready to try and unleash all the power available in the car as they make their way up towards turn number 10 for the first time of asking the race conditions. Further up the road, Victor Shimaro battling here with Nigel Stock, and you can see just behind there as well Alfonso Marin as the Canadian Motorsport drivers both try to battle away past the Crystal Sport BMW, and Stock there staying on the inside, backs off completely, knowing that he's dropped down to P3. Matthew Sheraton getting the better launch by comparison, and in fact Sheraton gaining a lot of ground early on in this race, as we do see right number 4 GT driver all over the back of Sean Scooter as they make the way out of the final corner and complete lap number 1. After one lap of racing, it is Stephen Wessels who leads this race ahead of Gaz Williams P2, Gavan Garner P3 ahead of Jonathan Cook P4, Russell Fowler is silver leader P5 ahead of Benjamin McCluskey P6, Akram P7, Sergio Gonzalez P8, followed by Nestor Fuente P9, Jamie Dory P10, and then Sean Scooter Lester is P11, and is your bronze leader currently, with Matthew Sheraton falling back a little bit there as they come out of turns 1 and 2, but as they make their way through the long right hander this time around, with Dars it looks as though there Matthew Sheraton inching close as they make their way in towards turn number 4. Downhill they go, and Sheraton here, well, he's going to be biding his time. We have had a bit of an instance of Mark Sykes who dropped to the back of the field. I believe it may have been a spin for Mark Sykes coming on through what's turn number 1. We'll get a replay of that when we can. In fact, we do have an immediate replay, and here it is. This was coming out to turn 9 into 10, in fact going into White's corner, so Mark Sykes goes a little bit deep there, and we can see the car starting to lose a bit of control and into the inside wall, and the NXTGEN Racing team at Red Driver, they have a nasty bump to the front of the car and losing the rear wing as well, and that's going to be a car with a lot less downforce to it now. That may make it a very unsteady car going on through the opening half of the lap in particular, but we'll have to wait and see how he can recover. And meanwhile, returning to your live pictures here, ladies and gentlemen, right now Jamie Dory, afterwards a difficult qualifying session, looking to try and go hunt for more places in P10 currently. His next target will be Nestor de Fuente, who's P9. The silver driver in front, acting as the rear gunner for Sergio Gonzalez Martin as they head in towards turn number 2. But Dory here just having to wait and be a bit patient when he gets to the hunt in this McLaren, a car which has to be driven on the absolute limit to get the best out of it. But that does mean it's a bit of a do or die car in the fact when you push it to the limit, where it only takes one tiny mistake and it can all go wrong. But meanwhile, speaking of mistakes and going wrong here, make no mistake, it'll be Russell Fowler defending hard on the inside for his P1 in the silver club, 140 P5 overall right now. Benjamin McCluskey behind, and well, he does not want McCluskey getting on free. You can understand why as they make their way out of the Moss hairpin, in the fact that then it will be Akram, gold class driver, who'll be trying to come on through, and then Sergio Gonzalez. The gap to Gonzalez right now is only 1.3 seconds, so therefore Russell Fowler is going to be under some pressure if he does start to let the gold drivers come through, and he'll want to maintain that buffer as long as possible and force them to fight each other. But as they come in towards turn number 8, well, Fowler right now knows there's no real way through for McCluskey at that distance, but he'll be worried about the fact that any moment's notice McCluskey may go for it. That push very strong on the brakes and through these corners, and as they make the way on to the next lap, Fowler holds on, but Jonathan Cook by comparison now 1.5 seconds up the road, in fact 1.8 seconds up the road, so Fowler doesn't really have a teammate to try and work with here, and therefore he's going to have to do this the hard way all by himself. As they've made the way in towards turn number 2, rolling the way off the brakes, we look up to the battle here for P2 between Williams, Gardner and Cook. It's Williams who holds that P2 position, We've gone Cook just behind, and well, right now the NXTGEN Racing Team Pink driver who gained 1 place at the start, got ahead of Job and Cook in the run in towards turn number 1, and confirmed it through turn number 2. I think Gardner here feels as though he can go even more on the offensive and move for P2 as they made the way in to the hairpin, coming through turn number 5 and around here. Can he get the opportunity, or will he have to wait? I think he may have to wait. In fact, it's now Job and Cook's looking a little bit faster, but again, it's going to be slipstream to slipstream here between the drivers. The only driver without a toe being Gaz Williams as they make the way down their Andretti straightaway as they head in towards turn number 8. Getting ready to go onto the brakes here. Will we see a potential move from any of these three? No, we don't. They all stay as they are. Meanwhile, further back, McCluskey still on the back of Fowler, still trying to probe his way into this battle, but he just cannot find a way to get alongside as of yet as they come through turn number 10. It's going to be very close racing between them, but meanwhile Akram's again very close there, runs a bit wide out White's corner as we jump on board with the Mercedes AMG Evo driver, coming up through turn number 1, goes a bit deep off the apex there. That's going to cause him a run wide. He has to collect the car together, fights from the steering wheel as he rejoins, and will Sergio Gonzalez Martin just backs off behind. And Zinoune now makes his way down through turn number 2, having to do a downshift then or help settle the car down, but an unfortunate moment, and right now the Gavan Motorsport red driver, well, he'll look to try and get himself back in the room as soon as possible. You can see that as soon as you get it wrong at one corner, the effect is compounded at the next corner, and onwards it becomes a domino effect, and one where you don't want to see the dominoes fall whatsoever. And as they make their way into turn number 5, now Zinoune's going to be working even harder with that 6.3 litre V8 engine in order to try and close the delta, but as they come out of that turn number 5 and onwards towards 7 and 8 they go. Well, right now, Zinoune at 9, there's a lot of time still to be made in this race. And Benny McCluskey will be the first driver. He wants to find his way fast as they make the way on and down the back straight here. McCluskey looking for the move versus Fowler. Fowler defends the outside here to get the inside into 9. But into the S's they go. McCluskey has to be mindful of the fact that the apex does taper quite tightly there into the first part of the S's, and that's what Fowler was going for, relying on the fact he'd have enough speed to just simply chop off the nose of McCluskey where he can get fully alongside. And well, good defense there from Fowler. It now puts McCluskey under pressure as they head across the line down towards turn 1 they go. Akram's on the inside here, fast move going under braking, and as they come on around, well, it's going to be side by side making their way up towards turn number 2. Akram's versus McCluskey in towards the left-hander. Zinoune's on the outside. It's going to be very brave if you can see the understeer creeps in off camber, and Zinoune cannot find a way through as they make the way in towards turn number 3. Now through the long right hand they go. The number 94 driver here still trying to put the pressure on, but it's frustrating progress. He can't seem to whittle down the fence and the resilience of McCluskey, who in turn is stuck by Russell Fowler, so it's nose to tail between all these guys as they break the way into the hairpin and coming on through the right-hander right now. Was known as close as you want to get, indeed a bit too close we could say. In fact, he will pick up the toe, but being that close, he's not going to have much time to pick up the toe, where he has to consider sweeping the car out there to try and make the bars. So Mercedes very strong on the straights compared to the Porsche, but not that strong, or will it be? I think he feels as though he can get this done here. As you can see, Fowler trying to give a bit of toe to Zinoune to try and get the two gold drivers to battle. Side by side they go into the S. Zinoune on outside to inside, McCluskey the opposite, and as they make their way to turn number 9, Zinoune's still there, goes all in the brakes. It's a nice move from the number 94, and he moves up in a P5 in the gold class. Meanwhile, we've got a spin further back, and that's Jamie Dory going around. They're coming out turn number 9, and will holds the brakes and has to let the whole field come on through where he can go racing once again. But meanwhile, after Akram's moves brilliant pass, we've got another potential battle brewing up here in the form of Sean Scooter versus Wes Matthew Sheraton. And well, we do have a BMW M4 versus a very eager Ford GT as they come down through turn number 2 and in towards 3. And see Sheraton there flashing his lights, trying to say to Scooter, look at me, don't look at your braking zone, don't look at your corner approach, look at me and the Ford GT. But right now, the Chris Shorter Academy blue driver focused hard on his race and knowing that he needs the wins today in order to bring some semblance of balance versus Nigel Stock, who's run away with the championship over the last couple of rounds. And as they make the way to turn number 5, Scooter goes a bit deep, but he uses that deepness there to open up the next corner. But you can see Sheraton right now absolutely blasting and hounding the Ford GT around through the hairpin that way, not making any difference in the car as they make the way up towards turn number 8. He's going to be in the toe here. I think it's going to be an opportunity for Sheraton. He looks once, he looks twice, and he's going to try and look around the outside now as they make the way on down. It's going to be 6 cylinders apiece here as they make the way into the next braking zone, but which of the two of them will count on top? Sheraton goes around the outside, dab of the brake, further dab, there's contact between the two as they come through the corner. Scooter recovers it, but then Sheraton loses it further so, with further contact, Scooter into the wall, and with that, Nigel Stock right now dodges one wayward car. Scooters into the pit lane practically. I think he's going to try and avoid coming in. No, he has to come in there with the damage he's picked up from the wall. But Nigel Stock just literally sifts his way through the carnage and moves into the lead of the bronze class with Elwyn Sykes and Wes Zinoune just behind. So the top three's been completely changed here now in the bronze class. And what a brilliant battle there between Cheverton and Scooter, ending in disaster in the end. And right now, Nigel Stock, I don't think he's going to quite believe his luck, but he's not going to take it for granted. He's still got another 10.5 minutes of this race to go. But goodness me, the Crest Autosport driver here, he's on course for is another win. And whether he picks up both wins today, I think that will put him in an absolute dominant form. But meanwhile, there's been a contact when it's turn number 5, and I believe, unless I'm very much mistaken, that's Russell Fowler with another car. But who exactly has he been in contact with is the question, as he brings himself up to speed. That's the Fuente moves into lead of the silver class, and as they make the way down, that's Sergio Gonzalez Martina right behind Fowler. So of course the esports driver now under pressure as they make the way up towards turn number 8 and into the braking zone to get ready to go. But right now Gonzalez Martin can't seem to find a way through and has to back off there, and in return we do have Victor Shimon closing up, and then it's Gianni Tahar. But we have a replay of what exactly happened between these two. So making the way on down to the braking zone, and that's the Ferrari there of, I want to say, well, unless I'm very much mistaken, that was Sergio Gonzalez Martin. So looking for a move from quite far back, and these are the two championship rivals here coming to blows. We take a look back at that instant from the onboard of Gonzalez Martin under braking, sees the doors open, and Fowler turns in to find a Ferrari that's trying to edge its way on in, and Gonzalez there will trying to get the car stopped, but all the cars coming through making further contact to the back. So both of them now with wounded machines as Fowler's off again. He's pointing in the wrong direction as we return to your live pictures, and that is also there. I think that's Victor Chamorro who's had an off track as well, and Russell Fowler right now struggling with the car. I think that might be a tow to the pits unless he can get it righted, because right now that car is cramping. Either suspension is out of alignment, and therefore when he's turning the steering wheel it's not pointing the way he wants it to. But right now Fowler wounded and into the wall once again. That car is too heavily damaged, and Russell Fowler's race is with into the pits now as he makes his way on in. It's a disaster for the number 8 driver. From one disaster to now a battle. We've still Gaz Williams, Gavan and Joffa Cook together. So one Performance Lane Esports car is down. The other here is still battling for P2 in the gold class, and overall we've got a few more incidents to take a look back at after that, and I think we will be getting the replay very shortly of the incident that involved Victor Chamorro and Russell Fowler, and here it is. They made the way into turn number 2 with Victor Chamorro, who sees a lot of smoke in front of him, and Russell Fowler's already got it wrong, and Victor Chamorro in the wrong place at the right time to make contact. But before all of that, we look at what happened to Russell Fowler coming on through the corner, and what comes on down there, and the rear of the car starts to let go on that transition downhill, hits the wall, almost goes onto his roof, and in the end becomes a passenger in his car. He can't get the car stopped at that point after the contact with the wall, and the Vonseling Esports driver in the major incident with Victor Chamorro, and both of them in the end having to be taken to the pits. A disastrous moment there, and that could be championship defining in the fact that whilst it's Nestor De Fuente who still leads in the silver class, it's Sergio Gonzalez Martin who is now P2, and therefore I suspect there will be a question mark over that incident between Fowler and Gonzalez Martin. And again, we're not pointing fingers at either driver at this point in time. That's for the stewards to look into, but it does look as though that one may go to the stewards after the race. But as they make the way on through here, meanwhile it's going to be Gaz Williams under pressure and Gavan Garner. Garner goes round the outside of turn number 10, and as they do, it's going to be Joffa Cook who follows him through. So Williams loses 2 places on the price of 2 corners, and right now it's going to be Gavan Gardner who 5 seconds down on Stephen Wessels. I think he's put Wessels' charge into the lead of into the wind right now, and instead focusing on what he can do in order to mitigate the damage, and the best way to do that is finish the best possible place behind Stephen Wessels, which is P2. And right now the number 20 Ferrari for NXTGEN Racing Team being on course here for the podium if he can keep Joffa Cook at bay, but Cook keeping him honest and under a lot of pressure as they make the way in towards turn number 5. Down the drop they go through 4, and as they do, will Cook still there, and now I think with vengeance wanting to try and make up for the fact that his teammates lost out. As Garner loses the rear of the car for a brief moment, catches it just in time, but you can see it there, those rapid downshifts. I think a bit of overheating on the rear tyres now for Garner. That Ferrari definitely will not feel comfortable on those rear tyres for the remainder of this lap, perhaps even the next lap with the slide, and it's only 2.5 tenths to separate this trio as they power their way up towards turn number 8, and we look to the wonderful view there from the blimp camera. Garner having to defend to the inside into the S's with Cook at a distance as they make the way on through. Well, it's a lovely day here today and a lovely day for racing, but coming back down to the close cameras, coming up behind rather rapidly is Akram Zinoune. He's caught up to the back of this with all the squabbling for P2, and now 6 minutes left on the clock, and well, for our drives that is going to equate to approximately 5 more laps than the one they've just gone on to. And right now Garner with an absolutely tantalising task of trying to keep Jonathan Cook behind, and Cook's going to look around the outside into 2. It's all part of the setup to eventually do a switch back into 3, albeit there Garner sees it coming and just parks the car on the apex, and as they make the way into turn number 3, Cook looking around the outside again, but he oversteps his mark, and as they make the way through the right hand, and now Cook will lose 1, he'll lose 2 potentially here as he tries to go side by side with Akram Zinoune, and what's going to be Fortunately Esports versus Gavan Motorsport, but Indian Zinoune gets ahead. Onto the brakes they go in to the Moss hairpin, and as they make the way through the right hander, we've got a mistake there from Jonathan Cook as he takes it to the grass. He rejoins, but I suspect that might be too rapid a set of downshifts under braking into turn number 5, has cost him the rear of the car. As they now power the way down the back straight here, up towards turn number 8 they go, but Gavan Garner being given a bit of a breather as Akram Zinoune looking for the move versus Gaz Williams. Good look around the outside here, Mercedes power versus Porsche Delicacy, and as they come through 8 into 9, well, it's going to be, I suspect, Zinoune's going to the inside into turn 1. He's done this once already today and he's going to do it again, but Williams says no, you can't quite pull that over mid. He puts it back up the inside into White's corner and holds the position, but now Williams digging in hard here, and as Akram Zinoune as they go on to the next lap, and with the gap to Gavan Garner already up to 1.2 seconds almost between these two as they make the way in towards turn number 2, and you can see how much this fight is costing them, but Gaz Williams does not want to lose P3. He wants to hold on to some major championship points here as they come out of the corner and onwards towards the next. But as they make the one through, meanwhile we look to Nigel Stock, your bronze leader, and he's tucked to mind Alfonso Marin, the next silver driver, who's P4 in the silver class. Wesley Lewin at second place in the bronze class by comparison, and still making further progress. So they make the way out towards turn number 3, but we have had a move from Akram Zinoune in fact for P3. Coming out of turn number 3 into 4, we'll get a replay of that very shortly to see how the move was made. But as they power the way now on to the back straight, we'll always see a return move here from Gaz Williams. I think as much as he'll be willing the car to go fast, that Mercedes just has too much straight line speed. Flash of lights there from Williams, I think, trying to distract. But as they power the way onwards towards the next braking zone, we take a look back at how the move was made by Akram Zinoune. So coming out of turn number 3, very close behind now, switching one side to the other, and in the end, coming on down the hill, we'll get Williams to defend on the outside there. And once he made the move before the turning point, there was nowhere else he could really go, so Akram Zinoune there positioned himself nicely and being rewarded with a good overtake. But as we return to your live pictures now, ladies and gents, we do have in the pit lane the cars of Russell Fowler and Jake Pitt, with Jake Pitt's car being involved in an incident on lap number 3. In fact, we can give you a replay of what happened to Jake Pitt, and here it is with regards to what happened to the Aztec Racing driver. And this was under braking into turn number 3, car letting go, and then, well, we can see Davide Fava having to go the long way round in order to avoid the way with Ford GT, and I think with that spin, further damage being picked up later on in the lap perhaps, and that's what's led to his premature visit to the pit lane. I believe it is a retirement from this race of the Ford GT driver. But I'm returning to live pictures now, ladies and gentlemen. Well, with all that's playing out, we look to your silver class leader, and that's the De Fuente for Canadian Tire Motorsport Yellow. And well, it's been some time since we've seen him in the lead of the silver class, and right now I think he'll be feeling as though this is a lead that is coming his way comfortably as he makes his way on down the back straight. In the charge here, doing a little bit of side-to-side weaving. I think just trying to see if the tyres have got enough life in them. Perhaps he's looking to get ready to go for a fastest lap here and get himself set up. Sergio Gonzalez-Martin just behind. And it'll be interesting to see whether the Canadian Motorsport Yellow drivers swap themselves at the end of this race in order to give Gonzalez-Martin every opportunity to return to the top of those championship standings come the end of today, or whether they'll finish as is, whether there will be any team orders in effect. But as they make the way across the line down towards turn number 1, will mean, well, we do look from them to Victor Shimura, who is chasing after Jamie Dury. The battle for P8 in the gold class here, it's a long way down. It's the battle for P19 overall, effectively, as they have Davide Favo just in front of P21 a lap down. As they make the way down the back straight, well, for Shimura right now, it is all about just simply taking some consolation from today's first race. It's not worked out for either of them, with Jamie Dury's spin coming on through these corners here at turns 8 and 9, going into 10. That's where it all went wrong for the McLaren driver. And as they make the way through, flames spitting out the rear of the McLaren MP4 12C, and will they make the way now onto their penultimate lap of racing as they head down towards turn number 1, and no change at the moment, but we can see that Shimura is inching closer with each and every lap turned. But looking from there to your race leader, ladies and gentlemen, your golden overall leader of Stephen Wessels for CSA Pink as he makes his way now onto lap number 16, the last lap of this race. And white flag is waving and a comfortable lead. Gavan Gardner, meanwhile, now P2 at 6.7 seconds behind, we should say. And Akram Zinoune chasing him, but not close enough at this time, as Akram Zinoune not quite able to match a new personal best as set by Gavan Gardner at 15.410. So therefore, I think Gardner in control of this right now. And again, knowing that the advantage will be going the way of Stephen Wessels in the championship a little bit more so. But as he makes his way on around, we did see for a brief moment there Nigel Stock with what is, I believe, a retirement from this race. Or an unexpected one. He's got some connectivity issues, it would seem, and hopefully that's not a sign of something bad to come for Nigel Stock. But he is having a lot of connectivity issues. You see him there off in the distance, and his car materialising in and out of the ether. And could we see a late retirement for Nigel Stock before this race is said and done? We don't dream of it for anybody, but it could be an opportunity for Wesley Lewin to pick up his first win of the season, if so. But meanwhile, we do see that Sergio Gonzalez and Nestor De Fuente has swapped positions, so they will be going for their lead driver in the silver class to take victory. But meanwhile, on his way to take victory here for the first race today, as the checkered flag gets ready to wave, it's another masterclass drive from Stephen Wessels for Chris Shorter Academy Pink, and he takes your checkered flag there, 5.2 seconds clear of his rivals in a dominant display. And then it will be behind the gold win at second place in gold for Gavan Gardner, ahead of Akram Zinoune P3, Gaz Williams P4 ahead of Jonathan Cook P5, Benjamin McCluskey will come through very shortly for P6, but then it will be Sergio Gonzalez Martin who takes a critical result here, and back to winning ways in the silver class. He will narrow the gap to Russell Fowler at the top of the stands for your silver class win. P7 overall ahead of teammate Nestor De Fuente, and then Gianni Tahar P9 ahead of David Camano P10, Alfonso Marin P11, and Nigel Stock does survive the connectivity issue scare to take your bronze class win for Crest Autosport, with Wesley Lewin taking his best performance of the season, P13 overall, but most importantly for the CSA Pink driver, second place in class ahead of Elwin Sykes, fellow bronze driver who rounds off the bronze podium with P3 in the class. And then it will be Sean Scudder at P4 in class, P15 overall ahead of Matthew Sheraton, who in the end manages a top 5 finish for the bronze class. And then Alex Rogenbach will be your final lead lap finisher when all the drives come across the line, and I do believe that's all the drives accounted for. But as we do see Stephen Wessels making his way on down towards the pit lane on his cool down lap here, a man who seems absolutely possessed to win every race he starts the pole from. And right now the South African absolutely, I think, pleased and proud of another strong drive, and this could be one of the 2 drives today that will put him in the driving seat for what will be that championship win come at the season finale at Le Mans. Indeed, he needs every point here in order to give himself that comfort barrier going into the season finale with only 1 race to be accounted for. And Wessels doing it absolutely at pitch point perfectly. Meanwhile, Sergio Gonzalez and Martin have a little bit of spec hanging over him with regards to the damage he picked up in that battle with Russell Fowler, but I'm sure they'll talk about it after the race. But still, nothing can detract from the Spanish drive to the win in this first race of the day. And he'll be absolutely pleased to know he'll essentially almost achieve parity now with Fowler going into the second race in terms of their championship points. And then in the bronze class, Nigel Stock making it another win here. And could he go for the triple double in the chain of sprint and feature race rounds that's ongoing? We look forward to seeing it if he can do so. But Nigel Stock absolutely on top form. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's take you through those race results subject to any steward inquiries, and here they are. Stephen Wessels taking the win overall in the gold class in the sprint race of round 7 of the NXTGEN Racing GT3 League season 4 as hosted on iRacing, and winning by just under 5 seconds clear of Gavan Gardner for NXTGEN Racing Team Pink. And then Akram Zinoune rounding off your overall and gold podium there for Canadian Motorsport Red, and a brilliant drive from the midfield of the class and battling his way through to P3. Gaz Williams P4 just missed out on the podium in the end, but digging in hard to try and hold on for NXTGEN Racing Team Purple, and Jonathan Cook P5 for Performance Link Esports for that unfortunate error at the Moss hairpin towards the end of the race, costing him very dear in that podium hunt. Then Benjamin McCluskey P6 for NXTGEN Racing Team Purple, falling off the pace at the end of the race. And then Sergio Gonzalez P7 overall silver class winner there for Canadian Motorsport Yellow, ahead of teammate Nestor De Fuente, who finished P2 in the silver class. So it's a 1-2 for Canadian Motorsport Yellow in the silver class. They'll be absolutely proud of than pleased with that. Gianni Tar P9 for Quad Dash Racing ahead of David Camano for Canadian Motorsport Red, who completes your top 10, and the silver podium of Gonzalez de Fuente and also their Camano. And then with that being an all KFM Motorsport podium in the silver class, Alfonso Marin carrying on as best of the rest in the silver class, P11 overall, but P4 in the class for KFM Motorsport Red behind his teammate. Nigel Stott P12 for Crest Autosport, and with that another win for the bronze class driver, ahead of Wesley Lewin, who takes his best performance of the season for Chris Shorter Academy Pink, with second place in the bronze class, and Elwin Sykes just behind in there for the sister team of Green, round off the bronze podium of Stock, Lewin and Sykes. And as we continue our way up through the finishing positions there, ladies and gentlemen, I'm covered all the podiums now. We come on to the fact that Victor Shimura, your final lead lap finish at P18, ahead of Alex Rogenbach, who finished a lap down the privateer, as did Mark Sykes P20 for NXTGEN Racing Team Red. Finishing 3 laps down is Davide Farmer for CSA Blue. 5 laps down, Russell Fowler for Performance Link Esports. But he'll be classified as a finisher as he did complete over half the race distance. And the 2 drivers will be classified as retirees. The non-finisher of Jake Pitt for Aztec Racing and the non-starter of Gabriel Yilmaz for the same team. And that's because they did not complete over half the race distance in terms of laps counted. We're now going on to the individual classes, starting with, of course, the gold class. Stephen Wessels there with the win for CSA Pink, ahead of Gavan Garner and Akram Zinoune, with Gaz Williams at P4, a further 1.5 seconds behind, and Jonathan Cook 2 seconds back in at P5 in the end off of Gaz Williams. Benjamin McCluskey P6, ahead of Gianni Tahar, with Jamie Dory and Victor Shimura completing at the race there, P8, P9. A difficult race for both Dory and Shimura, and they'll be hoping for better in the second race as they'll start on the front row. And then as we come onto the silver class, we can see here Sergio Gonzalez Martin, your winner with a top 4 KFM Motorsport, with KFM Motorsport Yellow 1-2, with Gonzalez ahead at Nesta de Fuente. And then we can see up behind David Camano, a further 1.5 seconds behind for KFM Motorsport Red, ahead of Alfonso Marin at P4 there behind his teammate. Russell Fowler P5 for Performance Link Esports, 5 laps down but still at the finish, and therefore will be on effective pole for the purposes of our second race today. And Gabriel Yilmaz, the sole non-starter from this race, P6 is listed but will not be classified when all is said and done. Then coming on to the bronze class, last but not least, Nigel Stott, your winner there by 1.7 seconds for Crest Autosport over Wesley Lewin, with Elwin Sykes P3, and then behind the podium finishers, Sean Scudder P4, missing out in the end after a couple of mistakes by the best part of 16 seconds, with Matthew Sheraton at P5, the final lead lap finisher of the bronze class, and then finishing a lap down, but not to be forgotten about, Alex Rogenbach and Mark Sykes P6, P7, Davide Farmer 3 laps down P8, and the sole non-finisher of the bronze class, Jake Pitt P9 there in a difficult first race of the day for the Ford GT Aztec Racing driver. And that concludes our first race here at the Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. And well, what a fantastic race it was, with battles aplenty up and down the field and a circuit that generates a fantastic close racing at that. But we've still got one more race to come, and we expect to go green flag racing for our feature race, the 60-minute race, at what will be approximately 9:20 this evening. We're going to take a brief breather, ladies and gentlemen. Do let us know what's your favourite moment of the sprint race, but we should be back in approximately 10 to 15 minutes time for the build up to race number 2. And don't go anywhere when we do, because there's plenty of racing to come. But until then, we'll see you shortly. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back then for the build-up to our second and final race of the day here at Bowmanville in Canada at the Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. And, well, it being our second race, 60 minutes in duration, 3 times the length for the sprint race, and now all of our drivers getting themselves comfortably set for what is going to be a challenging one. In the fact, we have seen many a driver get it wrong in the opening race, whether they've been under pressure or not, and as they get themselves set up now for success for the second time today, it's going to be just as much about time management and strategy as it is going to be about outright pace. Whilst we have been cooling down from our first race, definitely an interesting one in the sprint, where we got to see overtaking was quite difficult unless the driver got a very strong run out of a corner, particularly going down the Marion Andretti straightaway up in towards turns 8 to 9 at the S's from the Moss hairpin at turn number 5. But if you got that run, you could go too wide, and whether you're attacking on the inside or the outside, both are viable overtaking opportunities. We also got to see that there was the opportunity to battle through turns 3 down towards 5. You had to have a good run at the 3 and your rival to have a poor charge out the corner. And well, as we see Sean Scooter making his way on around here, looking at to try and make amends to what was a chaotic end to race number 1 for the bronze class, which saw Nigel Stock creep his way through to another win after the contact between Scooter and Sheraton. Well, I think at these two there'll be no love lost between them, but with the Ford GT driver Matthew Sheraton definitely showing a lot of pace here, and he'll be eager to try and put that Ford GT on the top step come the second time we'll ask him. But as we do look to the respective chats there, we can see SBag660 enjoying the music in the free freeway. That's Shane Spacer Scout, who we say hello to there in the YouTube chat. And as Tech Racing driver and supporter today, we also see Corporal Collins ask about the feature race an hour long, and that being answered as soon as he asked it. But no worries there, Corporal Collins. I'm glad to see you all enjoyed the race and indeed engaging in the YouTube chat. And as we do look to what is our silver driver here, Russell Fowler, I think he might be a little bit infuriated with the fact, of course, for battling for a podium and in the end taking a P5 in the silver class in the first race of the day. And it always hurts ever more when your class rival for the championship is the driver who takes the win, whereas you could have been in with the opportunity of the win. But the 15 driver now will regroup, and he'll just think one thing, which is race 1's over. I've got to now try and do it again in race number 2. And the one thing he will have on this side is that given there's only 5 silver drivers here and he finished P5, he will be starting from pole position in the silver class, albeit he'll have the company of a class of what is 4 Canadian Motorsport drivers there, and well, they'll all be absolutely itching to try and take him down a place or two at the start. But if Russell Fowler can nail that start, then he may just be able to break away and put a win back on the board and bring parity versus his rival Gonzalez Martin, because keep in mind, both races are worth the exact same amount in terms of their total points. The feature race is not worth more compared to the sprint race, and therefore every race result is absolutely critical. You can't prioritise one over the other. You've got to deliver in each and every one. And one man who does not stop delivering, Stephen Wessels for CSA Pink, as he comes to a stop there on the exit out of turn number 3 going into 4. And I think decided that his practice is all said and done, and now all he needs to do is wait to go racing approximately 10 to 15 seconds time. As all our drivers now cool down, well, the majority of them do. We do look to Elwin Sykes here in the CSA green car. The driver always smiling and always positive as he makes his way through turn at number 5 there. Well, he'll be looking to try and make his way onto the podium once again after taking that 3rd place in the bronze class in the sprint race, but the sprint race, I should say, not the speedster race. And as they make their way to the grid for the second time, well, let's get ready to race, as this is how they'll all line up for the 60-minute feature. Is Victor Shimura, who takes pole position there overall in the gold class for Canadian Motorsport Yellow, joined on the front row by NXTGEN Racing Team Peak's Jamie Dory. On row number 2, it's Gianni Tarr for Quad Dash Racing, who's joined by Benjamin McCluskey for NXTGEN Racing Team Purple. And then behind them, on row number 3, it'll be Jonathan Cook for Performance Link Esports and NXTGEN Racing Team Purple's Gaz Williams. On row 4, it's Gavan Gardner for NXTGEN Racing Team Pink, joined by CSA Pink Stephen Wessels, with Akram Zinoune starting their P9 for Canadian Motorsport Red. And well, I do believe that may be an error there in the fact it was Stephen Wessels who took the win, not Akram Zinoune. And well, we can confirm that's how they've been instructed to line up, but I think that definitely has been an error. However, Akram Zinoune starts P9 with Russell Fowler alongside P10 for Performance Link Esports, and he'll take the silver pole position. And then we will see from them Alfonso Marin, who starts on the 6th row of the grid for Canadian Motorsport Red, joined by teammate David Camano. And then on row number 7, it will be Canadian Motorsport Yellow's Nestor De Fuente, who's joined by teammate Sergio Gonzalez, who completes the silver class in P14. With P15 going to Davide Favo, your bronze pole sitter for CSA Blue, ahead of NXTGEN Racing at Team Red's Mark Sykes. And then we have Alex Rogenbach, who starts P17, the privateer, joined by Aztec Racing's Matthew Sheraton. With Sean Scooter, P19 there for CSA Blue, joined by CSA Green's Elwin Sykes on the 10th row of the grid to complete the top 20. P21 is Wesley Lewin for CSA Big, who is then followed up on row number 11 by Nigel Stock. And last but not least, it will be Jake Pitt, who starts P23 of 23, and will our sole bronze retiree in the first race today. He's got it all to do from the back of the field as all drivers get set here for the second race. Well, that's how they all line up, and will it remain that way after one lap of racing? We'll have to wait and see. As the drivers make their way around on the formation lap here, Jamie Dory this time at the front, and well, we do know that in clear air, if he's able to avoid overexciting that McLaren, he can be very fast in this car, albeit qualified, not quite showing that in the end, but still, it's a different session now. Weather has evolved to a degree, and he'll be thinking, okay, it's a whole new game, and I've got to think about one thing and one thing only, and that is delivering here on the big stage. As he makes his way on down towards turn at number 5 behind the safety car. Meanwhile, we look a little bit further back into the bronze class, and Matthew Cheverton, the Ford GT driver, he'll know that he'll want to try and turn around. It was a difficult end to the first race of the day, but the Ford GT driver could be very fast off the line and find a way past Davide Farber and Mark Sykes, the Audi Powerade LMS. One of those cars is very strong in the corners here, but struggles in the second half of lap compared to its peers. It doesn't have too much straight line speed, so Farber will be up against the elements here as they make their way down the Merity straightaway, building up a bit of speed now the field as they all come on down. And meanwhile, looking into the midfield at Russell Fowler here, well, the man under all the pressure of the silver class, he's got to try and get a good breakaway before his rival will try and get on top of him. Sergio Gonzalez, who starts P5 of the class, well, he'll be thinking about making one place at a time and looking to gradually close them down the League esports driver to make it a lead into the season Vladi for himself, as right now the two of them are practically level on points. As they make their way in to turn at number 8 here, it'll be to Jamie Dory to take us to Green Flag Racing for the final feature race round of the season, after which of course we have the endurance race 2 weeks from now. As they make their way on through, safety car is making its way in, and it's to Jamie Dory to take us to the green. Makes his way across the start-finish line. It's lights out and away we go for our second race of the day as Dory gets a good start here, keeps it of Victor Schmorra into turn number 1. Behind the field now, gradually Constantinos their way in as we see a free wide a bit further back between Gavan and Akram Zinoune as they make their over the rise and into the forward turn number 2, where it's going to be Akram Zinoune on the inside of Garda going wide there. I believe falling off the circuit, that's Alfonso Marin as they make their way in towards turn number 3, goes to the grass. We'll have to see what's happened to him very shortly, but meanwhile Stephen Wessels making some progress around the outside of Gianni Tahar as the Porsche 902 driver absolutely switched on as quick as they come, and now it's going to be side by side between Tahar and Zinoune as Garda also through. Tahar going quite slowly there, perhaps nursing a problem with the car, but as they come to the breakers over turn number 5, Russell Fowler hold on to lead the civil class header David Camarlo with Sergio Gonzalez Martin immediately behind as they make that corner car round. And Stephen Wessels has gone round at the exit of turn number 5. Now, was that aided or his own volition? Either way, that's going to put him a long way down the order. It'll put him to the back of the field practically, and now he's got it all to do again. But meanwhile, as that's been played out, Mark Sykes under pressure from Matthew Cheverton is going to look around the outside. For GT here coming on strong, the Ferrari holding its own in the straight line race, and as they make their way into the braking zone with Sykes right now just east of the fence, centre of the road. Cheverton's going to try and go outside to inside, but Sykes holds it as they come out to turn the 8 into 9 and in towards 10 they go, and well, that will be Mark Sykes who leads the bronze class after one lap of racing. It's one lap down on plenty more to go, and it's Jamie Dory who leads ahead of Victor Schmorra P2, Benjamin Kluski P3, Gaz Williams P4, Jonathan Cook P5 ahead with Akram P6, Gavin Gardner P7, followed up there by Gianni Tahar P8, Russell Fowler P9, what is your silver leader ahead of Sergio Gonzalez Martin P10, and then we have Best Perez P11 Devin Camano with then P13 your bronze leader of Mark Sykes. He's got Matthew Sheraton immediately behind him, speaking of which we jump on board here with the Ford GT driver as he makes his way off of the apex of turn 3 and down towards 5 they charge, and we're actually hearing there the very boisterous and noisy Ford GT's engine as they come down towards the braking zone. Well, Sykes very close to the back of Fuente as they come on in. You can see Sheraton getting very close for comfort as well, and I think eager here to make some progress. Vehicles are going all the pace at his fingertips, but the problem is right now he just can't extract him when he needs it most. He's in the tow here versus Sykes. This is going to be a double draft on the back of Sykes and Fuente, looking around the outside here as they build up speed. We saw this in the first lap, albeit Sheraton had to back out into the S's. but this time I don't think he's going to back out. He has got his nose fully alongside, turns on in, Sykes is still there, so he can't complete the corner, and as they make the way very windy, and he'll hold the inside into 9, and Matthew Sheraton takes the position as we've got a Mercedes there pointed the wrong way, and I believe that's Akram Zinoune who's gone around at turn number 9 and up towards 10. He tries to turn it around. Alex Rogenbach takes space of action as Zinoune gets the car rotated, but meanwhile Stephen Wessels into the pit lane, and we're not quite sure what's happened to Stephen Wessels other than the fact he's had a disaster at the start of this race, and Alfonso Marin meanwhile up the inside of Akram Zinoune, or will he be, as the two go side by side through turn number 1. I think they're trying to negotiate who's going to be lead driver, and it will be the Canadian Tire Motorsport red driver Zinoune who takes that position off of his teammate. They make their way through turn number 2 and up towards 3. And meanwhile, Russell Fowler and Gianni Tarr fighting for overall position here. They're fighting for P6 overall. And Will Fowler goes around the outside to the inside of turn number 5. That was at turn number 4. He made the move, makes it stick quite comfortably as they come on through the right-hander. Well, now for Russell Fowler, he's got to try and keep breakaways. It's Sergio Gonzalez Martin, who is the next driver who will want to try and find the move on Gianni Tarr. We want to see the Quad Dash Racing driver makes it difficult for Gonzalez, or whether Gonzalez can find a quick and easy path to success. Meanwhile, in front, Victor Schmeier under pressure with Jonathan Cook, and will the Canadian Motorsport yellow driver will know that right now the BMW M4 is growing stronger and stronger by the corner and by the day as they head on towards the next lap of today. Meanwhile, further back, Matthew Sheraton still front leader at the moment, and now all over the back, and Nestor De Fuente. He's got to be careful not to get too close, otherwise he may find himself in back towards Mark Sykes. Whilst all this is playing out side by side out the opening corner between Schmeier and Cook, and as they make the way in towards turn number 2, Schmeier defends well on the inside, but you can see that goes a little bit deep on that tight entry, and as a result Cook gets very close to the back, but he can't find a way to keep the side by side going into turn number 3. It does mean that Schmeier will hold the position, but then again as they make the way out to the corner, Victor Schmeier here has got to be careful of the fact that right now Cook absolutely eager to make that place and making it very clear as well as they come down through 4-5 who he is. He's one of the faster driver. He's now just got to put the price and pay dividends, I should say, to where it is and put his money where his mouth is as they make the way out to the corner, albeit the mouth there being the flashing of the lights as they make the way down the back straight and heading up towards turn number 8, and we're charging on down right now the Ferrari versus BMW, and it looks like that BMW incredibly fast, and the Ferrari just not quite able to do enough here to keep the BMW at bay from another overtaking opportunity. As we see Cook there trying to swing the car to the inside, trying to cut it back, get Schmeier to go deep into the X's, but Schmeier not falling for that mistake, and instead heading through turn number 9 into turn number 10, holding his position well as they make the way through the right-hander and on to the next lap, albeit you can see they're having to really pull the car around, not comfortable with the car right now, whereas Cook looking a lot more stable as they go on to what for them is lap number 5. And going out of turn number 1, heading up towards turn number 2. Cook here looking up the inside. Schmeier closes the door just in time there, leaving it as late as he possibly can. Trying to get Cook there to make an error, but as they make their way in towards turn number 3, Cook right now probing every corner to try and find a way on in. Looking from then to Jamie Dory, your race leader. Well, he has got Benjamin McCluskey behind. It's the two NXTGEN Racing sister teams are pink and purple, with pink ahead of purple right now as they make their way in towards turn number 5. And Dory here not trying to wheel under the pressure of McCluskey, with Williams just behind a further half a second. And then you have Schmeier and Jonathan Cook in the battle for P4. They're gradually getting close to this, 3 seconds off at this time as they make their way down the back straight. But as they do, we look down to the bronze class, and here towards the back of it, we've got Wesley Lewin and Nigel Stott. Two drivers have not really made any progress so far, apart from the fact they've overtaken Alex Rogenbach, who did have an error at the start of the race. But otherwise, these guys right now exactly how they practically started, albeit Lewin and Stott having swapped places at the start of this race. But the point being, I think they're cashed in perhaps on which strategy over pace here, as Elvin Sykes continues to hold Stott behind him for the time being. We're only 6 minutes into this race, we've got a long way to go at the hour, only a 10th in, but it does look as though right now Stott taking his time with the gains to be made and not putting too much pressure on early on here simply because he knows it's a long race. But meanwhile, speaking of pressure, Jamie Dory under pressure now as Benjamin McCluskey looks around the outside into turn number 2, but Dory holds on. We jump on board with the P3 car here, the second of the two NXTGEN Racing Team Purple Porsche 992s. That Williams makes his way out of turn at number 3, in towards 4 he goes. Here Williams can start to think a little bit about fuel saving, as we do hear him just lifting off the throttle slight there, coming downhill for turn number 4. Can't lift off the throttle entirely, as otherwise the rear of the car would let go with the Porsche being rear engine, rear wheel drive. But as they make the way now, I think we've had a bit of an instant further down the order in the bronze class. I think Mark Sykes has dropped to P8, and I think we have had a bit of a shake up as a result. James getting up into P3 in the class. We'll get a replay of that very shortly. We'll stay on board now with with Williams, and let's just listen into turn 8. Is he lifting to save some fuel? A slight lift there on entry, but nothing too major, so I think it's only when he gets very close and he doesn't feel as though he can look for a move, that's when he goes to the fuel saving. You can see Dory out of sorts there, coming out to turn number 9. As they go defensive into 10, he forces himself on the defensive line, and as they head in towards turn number 1, where it's going to McCluskey, who looks up the inside here, the door is open, Dory goes a little bit deep, and that might be the lead of the race, changing hands there, as McCluskey comes on through. Now Williams tries to probe for P2, goes up the inside there, Dory on the outside, goes a bit deep as a result, and now NXTGEN Racing Team Purple take 1-2 off of Jamie Dory as they make their way in towards turn number 3. Jonathan Cook has found his way past Victor Schmo behind in the battle for P4. A little bit Cook all over the back of Dory here as they make their way out to turn number 3, and will constantly Esports try to look through around the outside, can't quite find it. Dory goes defensive, but as he does, we take a look back at some of the incidents at the start of the race, including what happened to Alfonso Marin on the opening lap. This was the run in towards turn number 2, and you'll see the Canadian Motorsport red Mercedes there just goes a bit deep, misses its braking point, and on cold tyres it's a dangerous combination, but he brings it free gently back into the circuit. It's well held there by Alfonso Marin, and then a little bit later we had the incident for Stephen Wessels in the opening lap coming out of turn number 5. Now was there contact? I think there might have been a little bit of netco contact there with the car of what was at the time Akram Zinoune, but it does look as though Wessels there also quite unsettled coming out of turn number 5, and the netco contact was the final thing that pushed the car on around. But the CSA pink driver will be a little bit irate at that when he looks back at it. I think he may look at it and go, that may have been a connectivity issue, or at least from what we could see on our screens there. We then looked to what happened to Victor Chamorro on what was lap number 2. This was into turn number 1. At the time he was running P2, goes a bit wide here coming through the corner, and that releases the NXTGEN Racing Purple there on through of what was McCluskey and Williams, albeit Williams had to go the long way round to get this done, and we're not quite getting it done there, having to do it a little bit later. So there was only McCluskey who found his way comfortably through, and then at the end of lap 2 we did have Akram Zinoune get it wrong, coming on through turns 8 and 9. Coming up through the left hand, it looks up the inside, and well, it looks like almost making contact there with the rear of the car of what was Jonathan Cook, but Zinoune having to bring the car to a standstill. Gavan doing incredibly well to avoid making contact with Zinoune there. Very cat-like reflexes from the NXTGEN Racing Team pink driver. We then also have had an incident since then for Mark Sykes on lap number 6, and this is what happened to Sykes. He made his way in towards turn number 3, goes a bit deep. I think there might have been a bit of contact there with the CSA blue BMW, and well, that was not Elwin Sykes. I believe that may have been, in fact, we'll have to get a confirmation on what the contact was with. I mean, that was Sean Scooter, in fact, the contact was made, there was contact, a bit of a hard one to tell. And then we also did have an incident for Nesta De Fuente, and this was going on through the S's and battling with none other than Matthew Sheraton, and that was a netco contact there that was seen De Fuente into the wall and losing half the rear of the car, so that was going to be a quick visit to the pits, no doubt about it. And then we had an incident for Elwin Sykes on lap number 7. And this was into the same corner where it went from for Mark Sykes. So the two Sykes drivers, albeit not related by family, both making their own mistakes at turn number 3. And well, then our final incident was what happened to Jonathan Cook only moments ago, and this is what happened on lap number 9, battling with Jamie Dory, and we'll go around the outside and contact there with Dory. Brave to go around the outside for the 144 driver, but dreaming to dare to risk it, and well, unfortunately Esports coming in and catching it just in time. That could have been far, far worse. As we do return to your live pictures now, ladies and gentlemen. Racing continuing here, 10 minutes down, still plenty more to go. As our drivers make their way on around here, well, Russell Fowler right now ahead of Jonathan Cook, and I wouldn't be surprised if Cook now acting as a rear guard for the remainder of this race to enable Fowler to take the silver class win and bring parity to the way the results have played out in the sprint race. But Jamie Dory in the pit lane has to be towed to the pits due to an issue with the car, and as the racing continues here, well, meanwhile Stephen Wessels trying to make a long recovery. He's all the way down in P21 overall, as we do show you those overall standings. And well, for Wessels, he's got a long journey, 55 seconds down the leaders. He's had to make a pit stop as well for repair work, so it will mean he's got another pit stop to go. And how much time can he make up in the space of 49 or 48 minutes past the final lap of this race? That will be his grand target. Meanwhile, Gianni Tar going a bit deep, coming out of turn number 3, and that lets Gavan through for P5 in the gold class, P7 overall. And I think Tahar really just playing this right now safe rather than sorry. The Quad Dash Racing Mercedes engine Evo driver not really pushing too hard here in terms of digging into position, but I think more focused on getting the car to the end and getting valuable points on the board in preparation for the season finale. And it will now make its way down the Marion Jersey straightway, moving towards turns 8 to 9 shortly, building up the speed as rapidly as he possibly can, and a little bit further behind at the back of this group is Matthew Sheraton, your Ford GT bronze class leader, as the Aztec Racing driver makes his way in towards turn number 8 through the right-hander behind David Camano here, and he has a 4.5 second gap to the sister Ford GT for Aztec Racing of Jake Pitt, as the two drivers right now carrying on and indeed showing their pace as they draw the way onto the next lap. But from there we look to Akram Zinoune, has recently been passed by Stephen Wessels as they come down through turn number 4 in towards 5 here, and I wouldn't be surprised if Zinoune will try and just attach himself to the back of Wessels so the two of them can make the way up the order. But again, it is a long way to go. The next gold driver for them is Gianni Tahar, who is currently 47 seconds up the road, albeit they are catching Tahar in terms of lap time. But it has to be kept in mind that right now, with the distance they've got to make up, and they're not gaining a second a lap, they're gaining 2 to 3 tenths a lap. Well, they've got a lot of laps they can deliver, but it is a lot of time to gradually slice down, and they'll be hoping some mistakes are made, or there's a lot of battling up front in order to potentially bring those lap times down in terms of making it much slower. But as Zinoune and Wessels make their way across the timeline, they go on towards lap number 11 now, as meanwhile the field's starting to make their way towards the end of lap 11. And here are your two overall leaders and gold class leaders, McCluskey and Williams. And McCluskey holding the gap firm at 7 tenths a second. And as he makes his way on around what is there, turns 9 and 10, coming on through the right hand and up towards turn number 1. Right now in control of this race and looking comfortable as he comes on down through the right hand and in towards turn number 2. But as he does, Gavan Gardner making his way on through here and under pressure from, well, in fact, making pressure, I should say, for Sergio Gonzalez-Martin. And with the two Ferrari drivers here, not in the same class, but in the same machine, and both trying to battle for the same overall track position of P6 overall. And as they come down towards turn number 3, we can see just in front of them, unfortunately, esports pair of Fowler and Cook. We have got a car going a bit deep there, and that is, I do believe, well, the BMWs of Mr. Fuente, and that is the Canadian Motorsport car that is a lap down, letting its rivals go on through. As they come down, it's all gone wrong for Jonathan Cook, who's off into the gravel there, pointing the wrong way, coming out of turn number 4, in towards turn number 5, as he tries to get the car restored. Car's making the way on through, and will Cook in a difficult place there, in the fact he's on the entry curve into what was Moss hairpin, gets off the road once again now. But what exactly happened to Jonathan Cook? That's the big question, as that was a nasty moment there for Jonathan Cook, and we'll find out very shortly. In fact, I do believe we can get the replay now. Run down the hill here in towards turn number 4, and contact there with the car of what was, unless I'm very much mistaken, David Camano, or I believe, in fact, no, Sergio Gonzalez he made the contact with, and, well, I think Gonzalez would argue he was squeezed at turn 4 apex, where else can he go? And I think Cook would argue in return, well, why didn't you just back out? So I think two very different opinions of the drivers there, but Jonathan Cook falling foul as a result, and Sergio Gonzalez up the order, and now has a clear shot of Russell Fowler once again, as we return to live pictures. And here is the aforementioned battle for the leader, silver class, as Russell Fowler looked at his rear view mirrors and noticed that he's suddenly got his championship rival right behind him as they make the way up towards turn 4, and Will Fowler defending hard here on the inside immediately as they make the way on downhill, and we jump forward and look back from the rear of the number 15 BMW. Now making the way out of the hairpin off the second apex turn, onwards towards the back straight, going down the Marion Jersey straightway, and as they charge, building up the speeders into the pit lane, we do have Jake Pitt, Sean Scooter and Mark Sykes, albeit I think they've all been involved in the instance of their own description away, putting the fuel in the car. And meanwhile, the new fastest lap of this race from Akram Zinoune at 15.374. Right now, stopping the attention of these guys who are battling for silver lead. As Fowler holds off Gonzalez there into turn number 8, switch from right into left. Grillies is now back into the right hander on White's corner. Gavan Gardner only 3 tenths off the back of this battle, and continue to probe, pry and watch as they head on to another lap. And the problem here for Fowler is the fact he just cannot break away at this point in the race, and I suspect he will be doing a lot of time management with those rear tyres of the BMW, as we did hear from Jonathan Cook in the build up to today, saying about the fact that the rear tyres on the BMW were very susceptible to overheating. But as they make the way out of turn number 2 and in towards 3. Well, right now Gonzalez throwing caution to the wind and eager to get ahead before he starts to turn it down a notch. You can understand why he wants track position, as overtaking it is quite difficult, and once you hold that lead, you can start to really dictate the terms of the race that follows. As they head in towards Moss this time, you can see the skid marks there, but we had the incident with Java Cook only a lap or 2 ago. As the drivers come off at turn number 5 this time, well, Gonzalez is going to be even closer within a 10th as they make the way onto the straight. He's going to look around the outside immediately here, so it's going to be the battle of the German efficiency versus the Italian stallion, and well, right now it's going to be the France and North of Italy that's going to look around the outside. Fowler there trying to make sure that his rivals only got the minimum amount of room on the outside, but Gonzalez Martin's going to work with that as best he can. Round the outside to the inside into turn number 9, and Sergio Gonzalez Martin takes the lead of this race, and this could be championship defining right now as they make the way out of turn number 10. A bit of contact there between the two of them coming out of the corner, but Gonzalez Martin takes the position as they make the way down to turn number 1. And the Spaniard here, I can tell you one thing, he is bold and brave with the overtakes, and when it works, with Sergio Gonzalez knows how to put on a show for Canadian Motorsport Yellow, and we love to see it as he comes on down through turn number 2 and up towards 3. But now he's got to try and keep Fowler at bay and keep in mind how much fuel he may have used in order to make that move. But as they come through, meanwhile Wesley Lewin here in P4 in the bronze class. He's behind Davide Favo, looking to try and go for another podium in the bronze class today as they come out of 2 and in towards 3. Not close enough here to make that potential move on his CSA Blue sister teammate, but very close still. And as Favo comes off of turn number 3, you would imagine here they might have to consider, well, they're going to race one another, it's understandable, but Lewin right now may have to consider pitting early if he can't find a way through, because I think there's a lot more pace in that Ferrari compared to the Audi in front of him. But the problem is he's being held back by being tucked in behind the dirty air of the Audi LMS or Favo as they charge their way down the back straight. Now meanwhile we look to Akram, Zinoune tucked in behind Stephen Wessels, and as they come out of turn number 2 and in towards 3, going for the right hand here, the Canadian Motorsport red driver tucked in, but in the air of what is their Vessels, who's just leading the two of them around right now. And these two are the fastest drivers on the circuit, it must be said. The only driver who comes close to them, interestingly enough, is your race leader Benjamin McCluskey, and also second place Gareth Williams by the best part of what is 2 attempts. But otherwise, these guys right now absolutely on a mission to try and recover as rapidly as possible, albeit they've got some way to go, as the fastest lap of this race is now actually owned by the bronze class leader of Matthew Sheverton, and that lap standing was a 15.76 as we understand. No, it is a 15.76. We do apologise there for the confusion. We do have another faster lap from Benjamin McCluskey, albeit it's a validated lap as we understand it. So right now these standings are topsy-turvy on the left-hand side of the screen, because the bronze class has set the fastest lap of the race, as we continue to look at Akram Zinoune versus Stephen Wessels as they make their way onto lap number 1 for them is lap number 16 and into the 21st minute. As they come on down the round, we look back to Jake Pitt, Jonathan Cook, and Cook currently had to go to the pit lane after the incident earlier on. He's backing up to speed now, as we have had one retirement from this race thus far in the form of Jamie Dory. I believe, in fact, we've had 2 retirements, with also Mark Sykes stuck in the pit lane at the moment, and that might be a sign of a retiring car. So it is a bit of difficulty there for both Dory and Mark Sykes. Unfortunate to see, we hope to see them on the grid for our final race of the season early in October. And as we continue to look at the racing here, we'll go very deep there. Sean Scooter almost losing the car 3-2 and doing the same at 3 as well. Brings it back together thereabouts, but having a major moment there, and that could have been a nightmare for certain, but not quite so for the CSA Blue driver. But looking at from them to Sergio Gonzalez versus Russell Fowler, these two the closest battle on the circuit for what is the top 5 position in a class, and we'll stay with it for now as they make the way down from turn point of 5. It looks as though, as soon as we say that, Gonzalez Martin is starting to break away, inching away little by little, and instead it's Gavan Gardner who now finds himself stuck behind the BMW M4 Fowler, and we jump aboard here with the Ferrari. Made the way up towards turn number 8. Gardner in the zone, getting closer and closer, thinking about the move there. We can see Fowler defend in the middle of the road, making sure that Gardner's going to go around the outside. Gardner's going to use the rotation of the Ferrari here to try and hold the line all the way around in a similar fashion to Gonzalez Martin, albeit can't quite get it done there, and now Gardner has to back off once again and tuck back in. So Fowler here really dig it in, but the problem is he's now going to be a whole 1.2 seconds down from Gonzalez Martin going on to the next lap. So I think Fowler here really battling against the current. He needs to think of a plan B, because right now he is losing time versus Gonzalez Martin, and with that time gradually fading away, it's not an ideal place to be in as a new fastest lap in this race. And the gold class, not in the gold class, in the bronze class and overall, Nigel Stock with a 15.09. He is absolutely flying out there right now, fastest man on circuit. And as he makes his way through turn at number 3, his target is to hunt down Matthew Cheverton, who by contrast is only 4 seconds up the road. And Nigel Stock absolutely charging on here, and the Cresta Autosport driver leaving nothing to caution here in the fact that he could make it another double win and really would be in control of what would be the Bronze Class Championship going into the season finale, whereby in the end he would only need to finish the races in order to be able to take that Bronze Championship crown based on a quick mathematical prediction. But as we look to the Facebook chat there, we do say hello there to Lee Horn. Hope you're doing well, Lee. And meanwhile, we do look a little bit further down the order to Wesley Lewin, battling side by side with Davide Favo for P3 in the bronze class. It's going to be Favo on the outside here, going into the S's in the Audi, versus Lewin on the inside into the braking zone for turn number 8. He's on the left of your picture as Lewin as the camera turns round. And Wesley Lewin gets the move done there, moves into P3. Nice move from the number 22 Ferrari, and now his next time will be Nigel Stock, who is the best part of 9 seconds up the road. But you would imagine, oh goodness me, and it's a nasty knock to the wall there for Vincent Marin as he's gone loose at turn number 10. The car's hit the barrier immediately, and we tries to bring it back together, but that Mercedes, a nasty knock to the wall, and indeed that's a car that is going to have seen better days as it comes down the pit lane, and he'll be grateful for a fast repair as we take a look back at what exactly happens to the Canadian Motorsport red driver. Came through the final corner. It was on the transition into turn number 10. The rear of the car, I believe, well, in fact, a bit of contact there with the rear of Davide Favo, and that's what sends Marin around and the Spaniard into the wall. And a very unfortunate incident. I don't think there's anything else he could do about it. But I think just expecting Favo to carry a little bit more speed on the apex, 1 to 2 miles an hour more, and that was the difference in the end to lead to the incident. And as we return to your live pictures, ladies and gentlemen, meanwhile we look back to Fowler versus Gardner, and Gonzalez now almost 1.5 seconds away from these two. So Fowler still holding on here to what is P5 overall, albeit he's not battling with a driver in his class, he's battling with a gold class driver. But you can understand why he's eager to hold on here, because he doesn't want to necessarily lose at track position. And on top of that as well, he's got to keep in mind here that if Gardner comes on through, there's no guarantee he'll be able to follow Gardner out to the back of Shimaro, alternatively Gonzalez Martin, and Shimaro is the leader further up the road with Gonzalez Martin between them. And really for Fowler, his target has got to be trying to get back at Gonzalez Martin for the win in the silver class. But speaking of that, we're seeing a switch here, Gonzalez Martin on through as KFM Motorsport swap their two drivers around here and give Sergio Gonzalez Martin every opportunity to try and run away with this race. Now moving to P3 overall, and he'll just want to pull the distance as much as possible, as Shimaro now will become not necessarily a rolling roadblock in terms of intentionally trying to lead Fowler, but at the same time Fowler will know he's got to get through another driver before he can take on his rival, and that will really start to ache in terms of the fact that's exactly what he had happen to him at Silverstone, where in the end between himself and the opportunity of a victory in the silver class, he had 3 KFM Motorsport drivers who all were eager to try and upset his potential winning aspirations, and they did exactly that. But into the pit lane comes Gavan Gardner. He's had enough of sitting in this battle, and therefore he comes to them. But this could have been a lot of fuel saving for Gavan Gardner, and it may be an opportunity to gain. As meanwhile Russell Fowler immediately trying to pounce there versus Shimaro, but can't quite find the move as they make the way out of the corner. Shimaro goes deep, however, and as they make the way into 2, he's going to try and hold on is Fowler as they make the way around. We jump on board here from over the shoulder of Fowler as he comes out of turn number 2 and into 3, and he's been unleashed. Now he's got to try and find a way through it, and Shimaro's mission will be to keep Fowler behind for as long as possible, cost him as much time as he legally can do so as they make the way in towards turn number 5. Down the hill they go, in towards the braking zone, and will Fowler here, he get very close on the brake and the concertina effect in action. But as they come out of turn number 5, this is where he's got to get all the speed now down as they make the way out to the corner. We can see that Gavan Gardner's coming out of the pit lane in P5, so he's still ahead of Stephen Wessels and Akram Zinoune after his first pit stop, with Wessels and Zinoune expected to make one more pit stop today, given the fact they pitted within the opening laps of this race, with Wessels pitting on lap number 2, Zinoune on lap number 8, and preference to be on lap number 21 right now. now, so therefore they won't have enough fuel to get to the end of the race unscathed with fuel capacity. And as Fowler here stays close, Alex Rogenbach into the pit lane for his scheduled stop, but Fowler here gets the better exit out the final corner on to what is another lap, and Gap only at 2 tenths as they break their way into turn 1. Fowler looking for a later apex. He gets a really solid run. This could be his opportunity, but he's going to do it the hard way by looking around the outside, but instead decides not to. He decides to cut back in trying to get Shimaro to make a mistake, but Shimaro not making a mistake, but Fowler gets the better run off the corner. Shimaro goes defensive here, switching to the outside does Fowler, but again looks for the cut back here, but Shimaro sees it coming and simply parks the car on apex, and Fowler right now, he's going to have a run, but it's not going to be enough as they come into turn number 7. The door's wide open, but he's not got enough speed to put his foot in there and say, I claim this position, as they make their way into turn number 5. And this is what happens when a team are able to work together. And right now Canadian Motorsport fully in control of this race, so their driver Gonzalez Martin, who are just running away up the road, 2.7 seconds clear currently, and continue to charge off into the distance. As they make the way on through, we look back to your bronze second place driver here of Nigel Stock as he chases down Gianni Tahar. McCluskey's into the pit lane from the lead of this race, and the gold class as he makes way, Gavan stays out there. It's a bit of a surprise. McCluskey deciding to pull the trigger earlier compared to his teammate. We normally see them pit together or around about then. Victor Shimaro into the pit lane as well, so the damage has been done to Fowler's race, and now Fowler will know that what he needs to do is try to find a way to go a bit longer and come back out ahead of Victor Shimaro. But that will be the change for him in the fact that if he can't, he comes out behind, and his race will essentially be in the dust with regards to that opportunity for a win, presuming all pit stops play out equally. As we do see here, Gianni Tahar and Nigel Stock making their way down through turn number 2. There's nothing between them as Nestor De Fuente stays behind. It's pit stop season of plenty in the pit lane. Matthew Sheridan in, so is Wesley Lewin. Nigel Stock staying out, however, as we can see here. So therefore the bronze class started to split on strategy. And we're speaking of Matthew Sheridan, here he comes out of the pit lane, albeit the pit limiter in effect currently. Gavan Garner comes in around there, and so does Stephen Wessels. As they make their way through, Stephen Wessels move past the lap of the race at 15.027. And well, now making his way up speed it is Matthew Sheridan as he comes out towards turn number 2. He comes out in some relatively clear air. Akram Zinoune in front, but he can have a little bit of confidence in the fact that Zinoune will be the faster driver of the two of them based on relative lap pace over the last couple of laps. So therefore Sheridan right now should have plenty of breathing room to get the tyres back up to temperature and then just simply get himself in the rhythm and see if he can hold off Nigel Stock, who right now will know it is qualifying lap time in terms of trying to bring that gap down before he comes into the pits. Gaz Williams also into the pit lane here as he's parked up. Nigel Stock meanwhile goes on to lead an overall lap of the race here today as he comes down through turn number 1 and in towards 2. It's always good to see bronze drivers leading a lap overall. It gives them a little bit of a confidence boost as he makes his way on around. We show you those overall standings on the left hand side of your screen. As he comes in towards turn number 3, he does have Nestor De Fuente behind him, albeit a lap down in P18 overall, so therefore Nigel Stock will not have to worry too much right now as he makes his way on through it towards the second half of this lap. But meanwhile, as Russell Fowler makes his way out of the pit lane, the big question we've got to answer is where is Victor Shimaro, who makes his way on through into turn number 1. Well, Fowler has cleared Shimaro. He's made his way on out by the best part there of what is about 2 seconds when all is said and accounted for. So Fowler making that pit stop work, and it means now that he has Stephen Wessels and Gavan Garner between him and Sergio Gonzalez, and Shimaro then letting Akram Zinoune go. Keep an eye on Zinoune is expected to make another pit stop, as is Wessels, so therefore Fowler right now only has Gardner between himself and Gonzalez Martin, and we'll have to wait and see what Gardner can do in the battle with Sergio Gonzalez Martin and whether that potentially brings Fowler back into contention. But speaking of those individuals, here they are. And Stephen Wessels right at the back of this trio as they make their way out to turn number 5. We say hello there to Verano Motorsport in the YouTube chat. It's going very well, thank you, Verano Motorsport, and indeed a tough race for many of our drivers right now. But as we do see Gonzalez Martin under pressure from what is, I do believe, Gavan Garner. Up the inside he goes into turn number 8 and through the right hander and into left, and right now Gavan Garner getting the move done there. Gonzalez Martin not fighting it too hard, respecting at the end of the day his fight is with the BMW M4 that's coming up behind, and he can't afford to lose any time. And I think it's only apps that we do see Verano Motorsport in the YouTube chat. So those of you who will remember the Proto GT3 Championship when it raced here in its first ever season, the infamous moment where we got to see, was we see at the side-by-side between Stephen Wessels and Gonzalez, the infamous moment between what was the drivers of the drivers of Rhino Motorsport of Chris Danes and Gavan Gardner at the time. Danes in the prototype class and Gardner in was the GT3 class as they were battling with, I believe it was, unless I'm very much mistaken, I'm trying to remember the name of the driver now, Matt Caruana I want to say, and in the end Danes sacrificing an extra lap of the prototype race as the class's winner by a standing margin in order to give Gavan Gardner the toe he needed in order to come through and take the win over Matt Caruana. It was a phenomenal sight to see, and we definitely recommend you go back and watch it if you haven't. Indeed, on the final lap of the race coming down this very straight, we've got to see that play out. And well, as we now see Rhino Motorsport there in the YouTube chat, we say hello to Kevin Smith there, who are enjoying the battles. But meanwhile, as we look to Davide Favo, who's just gained a place in the bronze class, he's up to P4 in the class now. And Nigel Stocks into the pit lane from the lead of the class. We'll have to wait and see where he fits back into the trend. When we're said and done, we've had an incident for Sean Scooter. And what exactly has happened to the bronze class driver here, you ask? Well, we will find out very shortly. In fact, we can find out now. Making his way out to turn 2 into 3 onto the brakes here. And the rear of the car coming around a little bit too abruptly and just letting go as he tried to power his way back into a straight line. And in the end, it will quick thinking there from what was Davide Favo to take evasive action. And it could have gone very, very wrong indeed between them. But as you now look back to your live pictures, ladies and gentlemen, we also say hello to Matt Emmons in the YouTube chat who says, got to love Mosport, indeed a fantastic circuit here. And well, meanwhile, coming out of the pit lane, it has been Nigel Stock who's found his way back out ahead. On board is Matthew Shepperton, but Shepperton immediately on the offensive. This is the bronze class lead, and as they come on through the hairpin, it's going to be Shepperton who comes on through in the Ford GT, and Nigel Stock flashing his lights now. I think we're playing the favour as Shepperton flashing his lights to lane T. We've got a battle on here for the bronze class win, and it's not over yet. We've still got 27 minutes to go. They make the way down the start-finish straight. In terms of other changes, also Gaz Williams now ahead of Benjamin McCluskey after the pit stops for NXTGEN Racing Team Purple in the Gold Class 1-2. But other than that, those are your major items to note. We also do have a closing battle between Russell Fowler and Sergio Gonzalez-Martin, albeit with Akram getting very close to the back of Fowler at the moment, so we'll keep our eyes on that. But Stock now just falling back a little bit versus Shepperton, but I think hoping that Shepperton will overheat his tyres and wear them down to dust in the final 10 minutes race, and that's where Stock compounds. Albeit he won't be pounced if he makes mistakes like that coming out of turn number 1. He'll be losing more and more time there, and the opportunity to make it a double win. He'll essentially put the championship in his hands as he makes his way to Le Mans. But meanwhile, looking back to Gavan Gardner, he's got Stephen Wessels behind, and Wessels still going on strong here in terms of trying to make it as steep as possible into this race. So right now, Gavan Gardner not being given any opportunity to rest as they make the way on out of turn number 5 and onwards down the back straight they go. Charging away now in towards turn at number 8, and as they get ready to go into the braking zone, we'll have to wait and see whether it's going to be Wessels looking around the outside. I think he does want to tee up a move here, but knowing he is down the strategy, he's still going to enjoy the battle with Gardner for as much as he can. Gardner will not be enjoying this for the simple reason he doesn't need this pressure on top of any other pressure he has currently, and as they make the way through turn number 9 into 10, Gardner right now holding on firmly, albeit Wessels in a position just to look left and look right and think where he can try and make the move. As Gardner there lets Wessels go by looks of things, and Gardner slowing down for a brief moment. I don't think that was a slowdown. I think that might have just been Gardner deciding, well, Wessels is going to have to pit. In fact, he pitted on lap number 2, so why do I need to exactly race him? As they make the way down through turn number 2, it might be a very smart decision there from Gardner, and he gives him the opportunity to cool the car down a little bit. But meanwhile, in terms of your leaders, well, this is Williams versus McCluskey, and we'll 3 tenths between the two teammates right now. And well, hopefully we don't see an equivalent of the Hamilton at Rosberg incident from Catalonia back in 2015, where the two teammates took each other off the road. Well, as they make the way up towards turn number 8, I think both of them here eager to try and find a way ahead of the other, and McCluskey getting very close as they make the way down the back straight. But Williams holding the centre of the road initially, brings it over to the right hand side to set up the inside defensive line, while letting the car roll back to the outside. McCluskey, meanwhile, still there, not really trying to intone a move at the moment. I think just staying very close and saying to Williams, look, if you make a single mistake, I'm taking that position off you, but otherwise I'll stay right behind right now and just simply be an absolutely menacing presence in your rearview mirror. But from there, we look to Akram, as the driver in at P5 of the gold class, P7 overall for Canadian Motorsport Red, all over the back of Russell Fowler, and right now putting more and more pressure on the Forcing Esports driver, and all in the name of gaining an overall position, but also helping out Gonzalez Martin, his Canadian Motorsport yellow sister teammate, as they make the way in towards turn number 2. Once they come on down here, the idea being that if you can make Fowler make some errors or just push the car a little bit harder to stay ahead, then it will naturally take Fowler out of being in an attacking position or stance in the final laps of this race, and it'll mean that Gonzalez Martin can just comfortably make it 2 wins out of 2 here today, which would see him move into the championship lead before the season finale. But as they make the way down from turn 4 into 5, so doing a bit further back this time, but the Mercedes able to just glide under braking into Moss corner, and as they make the way out of turn at number 5 onto Marandrati straightaway once again, and right now Zinoune ever threatening, ever present behind. As they power their way down, we can see here the Mercedes with a 6.3 litre V8 closing tremendously versus the 6 cylinders of the BMW. Zinoune's going to look around the outside. He's going to go in for a potential move. Well, it's going to be a big investment. They come on through the right-hander, and it will get very close. And goodness me, will Fowler being turned there and into the grass, and well, with that Fowler to the wall. And well, the Corn State Esports, they're not going to be happy about that whatsoever. I think he'll feel as though he was squeezed towards the apex. We'll have to take a look back at that very shortly and see what can be gathered from an alternative view. But Fowler's car right now wounded, and that may be, well, it could definitely be today a championship defining round for Russell Fowler, and this we may be seeing this championship going backwards when right now it needs to be going forwards. But meanwhile, from them, we looked at Elwin Sykes, who battles here with Sean Scooter, and in fact I think Sykes backing off there with Scooter coming on through. And as they make the way out of the Marandrati straightaway up towards turn number 8, well, right now the South African driver here, the South African pair we should say, exchanging places here, and I think Scooter being given the opportunity to go hunting after Davide Favo and then seeing if he can get any closer to the potential podium. But as they make the way on around, we do take a look back at the battle between what was Russell Fowler, and Akram Zinoune, and here is the replay. As we look to the helicopter camera between the two of them here, thanks to the helicopter passing over at the time, we can see it. Zinoune getting ahead initially, Fowler down the inside, and well, you could argue that Zinoune was ahead at the time of reaching the closure point of the apex, and then Fowler did have his nose in, but was he fully alongside? But definitely a contentious one there. Akram Zinoune will feel as though he's done nothing wrong. I think Fowler will feel the opposite, but as they made the way into the corner, definitely one where both drivers were trying to contest the space, but you can see it definitely returns the camera angle, the original camera angle was picked up of, and in the end Fowler coming off the worst of it. Zinoune will have a little bit of rear right quarter panel damage, but nothing that's going to upset the balance of the car by comparison. And as we return to your live pictures, ladies and gentlemen, 20 minutes still to go, and well, now that battle for the silver class lead will definitely, I think, be by the wayside, as meanwhile we do have the battle for what is the bronze class lead unfolding, and this is still Matthew Sheraton versus Nigel Stock. Sheraton the defending leader, Nigel Stock here trying to make it 2 wins out of 2, and with it potentially silver the championship as much as he possibly can today. As they make the way up through Moss corner, you can see that after Sheraton very rapid run away, now Stock is up to speed, and what I think Sheraton may have just gone a little bit too early in trying to make the break. As they make the way down the back straight, the difference there in top speed being noticed when the Ford GT just able, despite the fact it's not got a slipstream to work with, able to stay ahead of Stock. In fact, open up that gap initially on the exit of turn number 5, and then only in the final couple hundred metres of that run down the back straight, that is where the BMW starts to gain the plateau. And again, that's why we say the Ford GT is a monster on the straight. Everywhere else it's a monster to drive in terms of the fact it is a very heavy car, and the handling not in the car is very prone to understeer for the most part, but on those straights there's just nothing that can beat it to top gear. And as they make the way to turn number 2, Stock really feeling that now. No, he's got to do the hard work in the corners first and foremost, and if he can do it that way, then it will come to life. But before then, right now, he's just got to get himself into that attacking position sooner rather than later. But it is a long way to go here. But thankfully for him, he's got a lot of time still remaining. And what he can do now, Stock, is he can just sit close and he can try to put on incremental pressure on Sheraton. He can try to get Sheraton to push more and more in order to keep that gap open. And in doing so, Sheraton will naturally wear the tyres down by comparison. But Stock's got to be careful as well. Tyre wear is a big factor in the race here in the feature, and therefore both drivers will know that if they push too hard, then they could run out of tyres before all is said and done, and their rival will be able to just simply take the win away from them and off into the distance. As They make their way in towards turn at number 8 once again. We can see Sheraton's line a little bit more aggressive than score, goes initially much deeper, can use the rotation of mid-engine rear-wheel drive forward in order to help him through the corner. Meanwhile, stock front-engine rear-wheel drive plus some dirty air means he has to turn in earlier in order to avoid any potential understeer wide of the corner. And in towards turn of 1 they go, at this time onto lap number 33. And when we look from them to Nesta de Fuente, who's going to look for his way past Davide Favo. Very well position at P14 as they make the way towards turn number 8, and De Fuente is going up the inside here. And this might be a relatively straightforward pass. I don't think Favo is going to fight it too hard as the silver driver passes the bronze driver. It's a change overall position, and now P14 in the hands of the number 16 at BMW M4. But they come on around and go on to the next lap. We look from them to your race leaders here. NXTGEN Racing Team Purples at Williams ahead of McCluskey. And as they head in towards turn number 8, right now running in formation. McCluskey was a bit closer earlier on this second stint of the race. He gapped in 2 to 3 attempts. But I think right now these two just staying together. And will McCluskey, to be fair, could be just doing a bit of car saving here in terms of the tyres and the fuel to give himself the opportunity to go on the offensive. The team will be allowed to race before they make their way to the checkered flag. But it's now a bit more of a tactical race at this point in terms of conserving the car and then getting yourself ready for that final charge to the checkered flag. And well, time does trickle away in these races. And I think right now for Williams it's not trickling away fast enough. He'll want it to go a little bit faster. And speaking of a driver who is going a bit faster, Akram Zinoune, the fastest man on circuit currently, as he's all over the back of Gavan Gardner. As they come down through turn number 2 and into 3, he'll be feeling as though this could be an opportunity for him to move into P4, and his next target, Stephen Wessels, albeit Wessels we believe has another pit stop to come. So therefore this is the effective battle for P3 by our reckoning. Meanwhile, whilst this is building up, we do have Nigel Stott looking around the outside there. Matthew Sheraton coming through turn number 3 and has been right on board and looked back from the rear of Matthew Sheraton's car. Nigel Stott still there and still looking for an opportunity. But I don't think he can quite find out at the moment as they made the way through the right-hander of turn number 5 through the first apex, then the second one off the Moss hairpin, and we'll stop again 4 tenths. But look how the Ford just able to get the drive off the corner and gain half a tenth in the run into 4th gear alone. And it's now, once we start to see the two cars get into 5th gear, this is where the slipstream starts to counteract the Ford straight line speed. But again, notice how that gap stays at 4 tenths and 8 hundredths. It doesn't improve or decrease at that point, and that is why this Ford GT is so difficult to pass, because if it's made to hold on in the corners, when it gets to the straights, it just opens the gap back up, and then you've got to do it all over again as the pursuing driver. And the thing is, in the dirty air, you are invited to push harder and harder for the simple reason you want to stay close. But the more you do, the more you overheat the front tyres and the front brakes, and it naturally becomes more rapidly became compound on the front of the car. As they make their way in towards turn number 2. The rises corners such as 2 and 3, which is where the Ford GT does struggle with the fact it has got those long winding corners where you've got a lot of weight being shifted around from the braking zone in towards the apex. As they come out of turn number 3, they do have a little bit of traffic in the form of Alfonso Marin just in front, and then Victor Schmaro. And Victor Schmaro is being gradually enabled to run away from this battle. So really right now Sheraton and Stott, they'll be focusing on each other more and more, with Gianni Tahar only 1.62 seconds behind, and he'll be looking to also try and get into the mix here in order to gain some more pace and go hunting after Victor Schmaro. So still some more drivers could interrupt this battle. But looking from them to Akram Zinoune. And Akram Zinoune going around the outside here and, well, making it count for Canadian Tire Motorsport Red. A nice move there from the number 94 driver. And as the Moroccan makes his way on towards another lap, 15 minutes still to go, we take a look at the move that was made for P4, or effective P3 gold, we believe, by Akram Zinoune. The drag race down the back straight and looking around the outside. It's side by side they went into the corner, and as they came on through, well, Gavan Gardner defending, in fact having a wobble there off the apex curve, hitting the curve a little bit too high at turn number 8 and causing the car to experience a bit of snap oversteer, but collecting it back together. And Akram Zinoune absolutely pinpoint precise there. A lovely move from the 94 Mercedes driver. Returning to your live pictures now, ladies and gentlemen. Here's the next target with being Stephen Wessels, who is the best part of 6.9 seconds up the road. Well, meanwhile, whilst this is playing out, we look back to the leaders and Wessels close to them. And I wonder if Stephen Wessels thinks he can get to the end of this race on the fuel tank he's got. If so, there's going to be a lot of fuel saving involved, surely. But I get the feeling he's got to come in at some point. Perhaps in the final 10 minutes, he'll make the quick splash and dash 9. It's not quite enough. But Wessels doing phenomenally well. If he is going to get the car to the end, this will be the best of a bit of strategy we've seen from anybody, and as soon as we say that, he's into the pit lane, confirming our suspicions, and we took the car as far as he could, and that's the furthest it's going to go, and now he's going to do all the hard work once again. But meanwhile, looking back to Sheraton versus Stock, their battle still pushing on and still escalating further and further as they come on through turn 9 into 10, and we'll stop this time 3/10 off as they conclude the lap. We've gone to the next one. You can see there Stock having a little bit more of a control, run out of turn number 10, not using much of the road this time, and I think Stock now trying to back the car off slightly and just give himself a bit more life at the very end. I think he might feel as though he's pushing it a bit too hard here in the pursuit of Sheraton, but you can't let Sheraton know that, and that's another part as well. This is where it becomes a bit of a chess game in the fact if you let your rival know you're backing off, then it does mean your rival could back off as well, but Stock doing anything but that as they make the way up the long right-hander, and as we jump on board here with the Crescent Motorsport Englishman coming out to turn number 3, down towards 4 and 5, we're looking around the outside for a brief moment at turn number 3, so he's starting to put more and more pressure back onto the rear of the Ford GT for Aztec Racers Sheraton, and the idea being here now that Sheraton, with a little time remaining in this race, can be lured into an error, and that's what Stock will want, because again, look at the Ford GT on the power, almost 3/10 is the gap. It starts to wind down, but only at the halfway point of the straight, and that's not where you want that gap coming down. You want it coming down a third of the way along the straight, but the Ford GT just able to say no when it comes to straight line speed, but Sheraton goes a little bit deep. The first sign of a potential mistake there from the Aztec Racing driver in this battle, and that's what Stock will be looking for. He'll be looking to try and make more of those happen as he makes his way through turn number 10. And as they do it, next lap coming about here, they both charge on. In terms of how fast they're lapping at the moment, they're still lapping the fastest of any of our bronze drivers, so they're pushing on as much as they could. As new fastest lap of the race, a 14.922 from Jonathan Cook. We right now will be going all in to try and chase down Gianni Tahar at the end of this race. In fact, speaking of that, he is looking for the move immediately here for what is P6 in the gold class. It's just behind the battle for the bronze lead, in fact, as they make their way through turn number 3 and gets a good run off the corner there. Gianni Tahar not quite comfortable with a run, and Cook thinking about going around the outside, but he hasn't quite got enough leverage here to make it count outside to inside, and instead backs off as they make their way in towards turn number 5. But as they come through, David Kamano immediately behind Stephen Wessels goes up as well, and Wessels in fact is well within arm's reach here, battling for P6 in the gold class when all said and done, and that's testament to how hard he's been pushing today in order to recover in this race. It's not going to be a top 5 in class, but still it'll be worth a good number of points, and as they make the way down, well, Wessels right now will know that control of the gold class will still be his, but it will be somewhat very close between himself and Akram, Zinoune and Gavan Gardner as the battles rage on. And well, I'm hearing, ladies and gentlemen, that Benjamin McCluskey's having some connectivity issues. Those have been resolved briefly. We thought we had a bit of a surprise there in terms of McCluskey potentially retiring from P2 in this race. Not to be currently, we don't wish it on anybody at the end of the day. We want to see everybody make it to the end of the race if they can, but Cook's still very close behind Tahar, and as they make their way into turn 2, it's going to be Cook switches back to the inside. Gianni Tahar on the outside, turns on in, but he knows that Cook's trying to get the door open, and Cook's going to have the run here through 2 in towards 3, but on the outside now they're braking, and the problem is for Cook, can he get it all the way around the outside? It's going to be very hard to do. Tahar gives him the space to do so, and I think Jonathan Cook may have this, but now it's going to be left-hander at turn number 4, and going too wide in here is difficult at the best of times, and as they come on down, it is Jonathan Cook who will take P6 off of Gianni Tahar in an absolutely brilliantly set up move there from turn 2 all the way through to turn 4. Brave racing and great work from the 144 driver, and respectful race as well for the 37 from the Quad Dash Racing of Gianni Tahar, as he now has the pressure of Stephen Wessels behind him, and well, that's probably the worst driver you can have behind you for the simple reason you've got the fastest man in this series right on your heels, and he is closing fast. As they make the way up towards turn number 8, both drivers here pushing on as best they possibly can, and David Kamano just watching from behind. I mean, when we look back to your race leaders of Williams versus McCluskey, and they stay as they were. They haven't really got anybody close to them in terms of a risk factor of losing places, but Akram's known 5.5 seconds back from at the back of the 2 leaders, so therefore what he is lapping on average 0.6 of a second a lap faster. Akram Zinoune will know he's going to extract a little bit more there if he wants to try and take the class win, or at least battle for the next spots of the podium. He will be P3 if things move as they currently stand. He'd love a P2 or a win, but right now these two Next Gen Racing Team Purple drivers just running their cars in formation and managing this race well. And meanwhile, looking back into the battle for P7 in gold and what is P10 overall, and it's Wessels versus Tahar as they come through turn number 5. And we see Wessels very close. They make their way through the Moss hairpin. But the thing is now, it's going to be the run down the back straight and in the toe here, and it doesn't matter. The Mercedes just has not got the speed here, even with the toe. Well, in fact, the Porsche, I should say, has not got the speed here, despite the toe of the Mercedes in front, and Wessels just having to stay behind as they make their way towards turn number 8 and going in towards the next braking zone. And Will feel very safe here, but it's in the corners where the Porsche makes all its time up. And right now, looking at very strong as Stephen Wessels. He's just got to find the right place in which to go for the move immediately. Looking up the inside, and well, he would argue that he had the space. He carries on, but a very, very tricky moment there for the pair of them. But it will be Stephen Wessels who takes the place of a Gianni Tar, but not the way he would have wanted it. Meanwhile, battle for the lead of the bronze class. Well, it's going up another level as Shepperton almost goes wide there and takes Nigel Stock with him off the road. But as they make their way through turn number 2, in control as they come through the right-hander at turn number 3. The 390 driver here, I think right now maybe running out of tyre compound, because it looks as though Stock now able to leverage a little bit more, and he's just been breaking up this battle into bite-sized chunks in terms of putting pressure off, then backing off a little bit for his own good, and then putting the pressure back on. But Shepperton has not been able to breathe in this. He is constantly being chased, and therefore right now it does look as though Shepperton, under that increasing pressure, and in his head it is only going to get worse and worse until this is all said and done. And more, I don't think we have ever seen the Ford GT in the GT3 League take and win in class, let alone overall. And will Shepperton be able to give the Ford GT its first win in the history in this series? We'll have to wait and see. But as they make the way on through turns 8 to 9, Shepperton extremely close to the what is Nigel Stock, but Stock right now just not able to find the last 5% that's going to enable him to get ahead. Jonathan Cook's on the back of this battle, and he's going to watch it with both eyes wide open and waiting to see if he can get away on through both of the drivers. And it's definitely, like you say there, Kevin, in the YouTube chat for Verona Motorsport, it is a race to the line for the bronze class as they come down through turn number 2 and into 3 and in towards the next braking zone. We've got a car off the road. That's Alfonso Marin who rejoins the inside and just very gradually brings the car on around. Stock has to go a bit wide. That's going to buy Shepperton a bit of breathing room as they make the way off the corner. Unfortunate circumstances, but meanwhile Cook and Victor, that's Victor Shimori just made his way past, not Alfonso Marin, we apologise, but Cook there getting the place and up to P5 now in the gold class as a result. And we take a look back at what exactly happened to Victor Shimori. As he made his way into turn number 2 onto the brakes, he went quite tight on the entry line. The car just slides down the hill onto the grass, and does he avoid the exit barrier? He does indeed. He just has to bring it very sensibly back onto the circuit, and will very well controlled there by the number 69 driver. But meanwhile, we look back to Sean Scooter versus Elwin Sykes, and Elwin Sykes there letting that Scooter go, and now Sean Scooter up into P5 in the bronze class and charging on here. Scooter making more progress before this is all said and done. So we have got more and more changes that are occurring up and down the field, but as they do, time is trickling away here. We've just got over 5 minutes now before we wrap up our final race of the day here at the Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. We are going to stay with this bronze lead battle for now. Close the battle on circuit and ride aboard and look back from the rear of the Ford GT of Matthew Shepperton that has set racing. Going into turn number 3, well, Nigel Stock right now will know he has got a line of cars behind him in the form of Cook and Shimaro, and they'll both be eager to try and make progress down. They're battling for gold position, so you can imagine that Cook will be quite eager to get past Stock in order to give himself a bit of a buffer using the bronze driver. Being Stock will not want to be interrupted right now. Time is running out in this race, and Shepperton experiencing a little bit of power oversteer there at the corner exit. In fact, that cost him a bit of time, and those are the mistakes that Stock will be looking for. There's a tiniest of errors, but they're the most pivotal ones. You can see now that gap is actually coming down to the toe. It's down to 2 tenths. The 4GT's still got enough potency here on the straight to be able to offset the mistake. But next time if Shepperton makes that mistake, that adds to it by a further percent, then Stock can start to feel as though things are coming more and more his way. But as they make the way through turn number 9 and in towards 10, Stock getting close, but too close there for comfort as they come through turn number 10. All the drivers rolling in the way of the corner. Up towards turn number 1 they go, and meanwhile, whilst the race leaders are onto lap 44, these guys start lap number 44 now. We've got the best part of what is another 4 laps to go, including this one. Stock looking to the inside, Shepperton defends, now back onto the outside here as they come on down and around, and we ride on board with Jonathan Cook here. We ride on board the dashboard as he looks from one side to the other, gets very close to the back of Stock, who is going to make that car as wide as possible in the name of trying to keep Cook at bay whilst looking for his own move. And as they power the way out of the corner, we are hearing the Victor Shimaro involved in an instant just behind. Stephen Wessels has found his way all through. We'll take a look back at that very shortly. But as they make their way down to the braking zone, Cook here just having to wait, watch and listened for his opportunity in terms of being able to find a way into this bronze class battle, but right now just not able to find a way through it and just watching on instead. And he does have the best view in the house. He's got the popcorn seat view, being able to watch it right in front of him for every corner of every lap. Albeit I think he'll be looking behind him and noticing Stephen Wessels coming, and suddenly wanting to get the hurry up here to pass these bronze drivers before Wessels could try and make the pass on him. But taking a look back, we look back to the instant of Victor Shimaro at the start of this lap. And coming up into turn number 3 onto the brakes, went on the rear of the car, just immediately snapping loose under braking there. And well, Wessels doing very well to hold that inside line to avoid the wayward Spaniard's car, but Victor Shimaro in an unfortunate instant there for Canadian Motorsport yellow. But we return to your live pictures, ladies and gentlemen. Nigel Stock has since been passed by Jonathan Cook, and he's not going to be too pleased about that. In the fact, 3 minutes left on the clock, and now he'll be hoping that Cook can do the same to Cheverton, albeit Cheverton defending here. He knows if he can keep Cook between himself to Stock, that prevents Stock from being involved in this battle any longer. And as they come out of turn number 3, well, this is very wide defending from Cheverton. The fact he's making that Ford GT wider than what it already is. It does have the widest wheelbase of all the cars here on the grid. And as they make the way through turn number 5 in towards 6, well, right now it is going to be what is Matthew Sheraton essentially trying to keep a traffic jam of BMWs behind him, with a board coming up at the back of it. And well, Stephen Wessels will look at this and think, okay, now I've got to pick my way past the Bond second place driver. As they make their way down the back straight, the race leaders, meanwhile, of Gaz Williams and Benjamin McCluskey still holding firm, still a 4-second gap to Akram Zinoune behind, and Zinoune only chiseling away at 1.5 to 2 tenths a lap now. These guys have stepped up the pace in terms of just managing this race with 2 minutes on the clock, so this lap plus one more, we'll see 47 laps when this is all said and done. Car off the road there, and I believe that was Sean Scudder taking a bit of a ride, one out of turn number 2, brings it back on safely. But then looking at back to Matthew Sheraton here, your bronze leader still keeping Cook at bay. And well, for overall position, you could say right now the battle for P6. And Cook, they're trying to go around the outside, a small tap between the two drivers, and Cook is sent wide. Well, Stock is released back into this battle, but Cook won't be too pleased. That Vessel's game to play through opportunity, and as they make the way through turn at number 3, well, right now Sheraton will have one more lap to go. As Cook rejoins at the back of this battle, albeit quite a way back, and I don't think he's going to be back involved in it anytime soon. Stock takes a peek there into the inside turn 5, and I think right now, maybe considering that he needs to lunge it on the final lap, he's got to go for something, he's got to throw something at this in order to try and make a move happen, otherwise it's just not happening as they make the way on around. But as they do, and we look back to the class standings here, we'll stay with those to the very end of the race now, ladies and gentlemen. Again, it's rinse and repeat here, with Sheraton just able to pull away down the back straight, but everywhere else in the lap is the BMW that is able to outrun the Ford GT, but just not find a way alongside, let alone through. And as they make the way in towards the final corner for the penultimate time, when they make the way onto the final lap, meanwhile our leaders are already on the final lap at lap number 47, and Williams versus McCluskey as they come down through turn number 3 in towards 4-5 they go. And well, will there be a way through here for McCluskey? We'll have to wait and see. But meanwhile, Stock incredibly close here, coming out of turn 1. It's literally a 10th if that, and he looks at a move. Sheraton goes on the inside defence, and Stock just cannot find a way to get Sheraton to make a mistake. Matthew Sheraton driving the wheels off of that Ford GT right now, nailing it from corner to corner. And as they come around it, Stock goes wide, and that might be it as he takes a little mistake, and it goes very far indeed. And right now, Sheraton will have a bit of breather room on this final lap. Meanwhile, we look back to your race leaders here, ladies and gentlemen, and Williams and McCluskey are now fighting into the final couple of corners. Williams holds on for now. McCluskey looking to the inside into turn number 9. But will he be able to find it? That's the question. Was they make the way through the final corner? It's a formation finish for Gaz Williams and Benjamin McCluskey. It's 1-2 for Next Gen Racing Team Purple as Williams crosses the line, your winner ahead of McCluskey. Akram Zinoune rounds up the gold podium P3 ahead of Gavan Gardner. Sergio Gonzalez will take the silver class win for the second time today for Canadian Motorsport yellow P5 overall. And Matthew Sheraton, as he winds his way on through turns 9 and 10, he's going to be the man to say that the Ford GT has finally taken a win in the GT3 League hosted by Next Gen. Here's your bronze winner for Aztec Racing ahead of Nigel Stock, who finishes behind him by 1.7 seconds P9, with Stephen Wessels and Jonathan Cook between the two of them. David Camano runner up in the silver class, P10 overall, and then it will be Johnny Tahar, P7. in what is the gold class, P11 overall, ahead of Victor Chamorro, P12, ahead of Nestor De Fuente, who makes his way on around through the final corner. He will be one of the last lead lap finishers here. We have got a couple of others coming as he finishes P3 in the silver class. Another podium there for the number 16 driver for Canadian Motorsport Yellow. And then we do have Wesley Lewin, who will make it back-to-back podiums today in the bronze class, with a third place to follow up that second place in the sprint. He'll be absolutely pleased as punch with that one. And then Davide Favo coming on through the final corner here will be your final lead lap finisher, P4 in the bronze class for CSA Blue, as he comes to take his own checker flag. But what a race, ladies and gentlemen, from start to finish. And well, it was formation control for Gaz Williams and Benjamin McCluskey and NXTGEN Racing Team Purple at the very front of the field. For Sergio Gonzalez, another win here for Canadian Motorsport Yellow driver, will definitely make it feel as though he is now the one in control in the Silver Class Championship come the finish. But the big story today is in the bronze class. Matthew Sheraton holding on versus Nigel Stock for the best part of 25 minutes of race, practically the entirety of the second stint of this race, and in the end the Ford GT driver being able to get the best out of the 390 car and showing that the Ford GT still has a little bit of life left in it as he makes his way to the pit lane. But what a thriller of a second race today. You say it there, hi Santos, what a race indeed, in the YouTube chat. And well, as our drivers all make their way into the pit lane, let's take a look at those race results subject to Eddie Stewart's inquiries, and here they are. So as we do start with the overall results for the feature race of round 7 of the NXTGEN Racing GT3 League Season 4, as brought to you on iRacing. Gaz Williams there taking the win for NXTGEN Racing Team Purple, half a second clear of teammate Benjamin McCluskey, and then the overall podium and the gold podium being completed by Akram Zinoune for Canadian Motorsport Red. Gavan P4 for NXTGEN Racing Team Pink, ahead of Canadian Motorsport Yellow, Sergio Gonzalez Martin, your silver class winner there, P5 overall, a great drive from the 55 drive from Spain. And then Matthew Sheraton just behind him by 14 seconds in a hard-fought bronze win, and P6 overall, his best result of the season in both regards, and the Aztec Racing driver from the United Kingdom will absolutely be standing proud on the car. Stephen Wessels P7 for CSA Pink, a great recovery drive there to P7, given the fact he had to take 2 pit stops in this race rather than the expected one. And Jonathan Cook just behind there, an unfortunate end to the day. Indeed, Performance Link Esports coming off the worst of the teams here today at the Mosport circuit. Nigel Stock P9 in the end, second place in the bronze class after that unfortunate mistake right towards the end of the race for Crest Autosport. Had a David Camano P10 there, and your runner-up in the silver class for Canadian Motorsport Red, and then at P11 at Best Rest Gianni Tahar for Quad Dash Racing. But as we continue our way down the order, we now focus on the remainder of the class podium finishing positions, and we can see it Nestor De Fuente there, your third place silver driver for Canadian Motorsport Yellow, completing the silver podium of Gonzalez Martin, Camano, and what was De La Fuente in terms of that third place. And then going in to P14, Wesley Lewin for CSA Pink, will a third place in the bronze class there to complete the bronze podium of Sheraton at Stock and himself in an absolutely brilliant drive there for the number 22 driver. Finishing on the lead lap, the last lead lap finisher, Davide Favo, P15 for CSA Blue, and behind him P16, a lap down, his teammate Sean Scooter, and also a lap down there, Russell Fowler for Performance Link Esports, Elwin Sykes for CSA Green, Alfonso Marin for Canadian Motorsport Red, and then 2 laps down, Alex Rogenbach in a difficult day today for the Lamborghini Huracan driver, the privateer, and then retiring from this race and will be classified as non-finishers as they did not complete over half the race distance, Jake Pitt, Mark Sykes, and Jamie Dory, P21 through to P23. So difficult race there for NXTGEN Racing Team Red and NXTGEN Racing Team Pink's drivers. But meanwhile, as we come onto the individual classes now, starts off with the gold class, Gaz Williams ahead of teammate Benjamin McCluskey, 1-2 for NXTGEN Racing at Team Purple, and that was 4 seconds clear of your third place finisher, Canadian Motorsport Red's Akram Zinoune. Then it was a further 8 tenths to Gavan for NXTGEN Racing Team Pink, throwing everything he could at it today, but podium not quite there in the feature race. And then Stephen Wessels P5 for CSA Pink, and making up the best part in the end of what was 35 seconds of race time, despite being a pit stop down within 2 laps. A phenomenal drive there from the South African. Jonathan Cook P6 for Performance Link Esports, ahead of Gianni Tahar for Quad Dash Racing, and then Victor Chamorro, your final finisher of this race for Canadian Motorsport Yellow, ahead of retiree Jamie Dory for NXTGEN Racing at Team Pink. We then come on to the silver class. And as we can see, Sergio Gonzalez, your winner for the silver class there by 22 seconds almost for Canadian Motorsport Yellow over sister team drive from Canadian Motorsport Red, David Camano. And then rounding off the podium for Canadian Motorsport Yellow, Ernesto De Fuente. Finishing a lap down, Russell Fowler for Performance Link Esports and Canadian Motorsport Red's Alfonso Marin. And as we come on to the bronze class, the confirmation there is Aztec Racing's Matthew Sheraton takes the win by 1.7 seconds over Crest Autosport's Nigel Stock, with CSA Pink's Wesley Lewin a further was 37.5 seconds behind, rounding off the bronze podium for CSA Pink. Davide Favo, Sean Scudder P4, P5. Sean Scudder being the first driver to finish a lap down in the class, and also a lap down there for Elwin Sykes, with Alex Roggenbuck 2 laps down. And then we had the 2 retirements of Jake Peart and Mark Sykes, both drivers classified as non-finishers. And that concludes all of our racing here today at the Canadian Tire Motorsport Park circuit, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a phenomenal round, it must be said, but we're not quite done just yet, in the fact that whilst all the racing has concluded, we still do have our post-round interviews coming up with our volunteer drivers. So we are going to step away for approximately about 10 to 15 minutes, but we'll be back then, and when we do, we'll get those interviews underway, and I'm sure many of our drivers today have got plenty to talk about in terms of racing at this circuit and how hard and fast the racing was from start to finish in both races. So with that, we'll see you very shortly. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is time for our post-round interviews with our volunteer drivers. And today we're going to be hearing from 3 drivers as spread across 2 classes, starting with the gold class driver from Quad Dash Racing of Gianni Tahar, who seems to have a bit of difficulty today with the Mosport circuit, and we'll get to hear his thoughts on where his pace was over the course of today, and perhaps why the Mercedes himself and the circuit were just not meant to be. Before we come on to our bronze driver, not from Cresta Motorsport there as incorrectly listed, but from what was Aztec Racing in the form of Matthew Cheverton, who absolutely delivered when it mattered most at the very front of the field. And then lastly, we're going to be hearing from Performance Link Esports' Jonathan Cook, who as well put in a fantastic demonstration today, despite his difficulties of just how fast he can be, and will batting against the elements. But without further ado, it's my pleasure to bring in to the interview room, as of now, none other than Gianni Tahar. And as he joins me in the interview room, good evening to you, Gianni, and well, what a tough day for yourself today. It looked as though the Mosport circuit was just not going to be kind to you, no matter which session you're in, whether it was qualifying or the races, but still bringing on home P7 in both races in the gold class.
Oh yeah, that it's the second race was also P7 is great to hear. Yeah, it was what I said. The results were not, of course, the best if you look at it, but for me it was a very good race. I was very consistent on the track that I didn't have the time to practice for. I also had a bit of sleep deprivation because I had to race myself this weekend in IRL, so it was 24 hours, and therefore I was not really fit. So yeah, that I managed to basically finish the full race without crashing myself, it was very insane. And yeah, it was unfortunate that I finally got to fight Stephen Wessels, what I said in the first race in the interview that I want to fight him. Got the chance, and unfortunate, a bit of netcode, yeah, crashed me out, and I could maybe have let a little bit more room. But yeah, it was insane, amazing. Enjoyed. I think my best race at the moment so far.
Oh, indeed. And, well, the fact that you've gone from the real world of racing, from a 24-hour race, and come straight to what is racing here today, I have to ask firstly, what series do you race in real life?
Unfortunately, I'm not a racing driver myself, IRL. I really would love to, but I'm basically helping with the data, coaching and improving the drivers. I also was able to support the pit stop with the driver change, so basically no sleep in between, just waiting for the car to come in, and yeah, wait it out.
Oh goodness, well that sleep deprivation not helpful like you say, and then jumping into the car for a very tricky circuit in the form of the Mosport circuit in Canada. But in terms of qualifying, P13 overall and P8 in class, whilst you may not have been the fastest driver out there, it did look as though the lap time was gradually coming as the session went on. How was qualifying for you?
Yeah, tough. It was, I think before the session started, I only had 1 hour of practice on the track that I basically never driven before. So the track was, or the practice that I had in the session and the qualifying was basically my practice. So yeah, I managed to get a PB of 1,000 in the qualifying. So perfectly great. But yeah, I didn't expect much from the race. I just went in to try to get some points for the team as well, for myself. I learned from Sebring that if you crash out a couple of times, they could just keep going. Luckily, this time I didn't crash out and just finished everything as planned. And yeah, I wasn't the quickest, but I still managed to learn a lot and improve myself as a driver.
Oh, 100%, and that's the spirit to have when you go racing, whether you've had tons of time of practice or very little at all. But speaking about the races, we did get to see some great racing from yourself, particularly as we made our way into the feature race. But coming on to the sprint race, 20 minutes of racing around here at a circuit where it's very easy to make mistakes.
Oh yeah, it was, I think I overtook my maybe 7 crashes in the time, but yeah, that was basically my plan, that I knew I couldn't finish or win on pace. So for me, it was basically fighting for consistency, just driving a way that feels for me comfortable, knowing that I will not crash. And yeah, that didn't happen. And yeah, for me, the only issue is that I'm not very good at the first lap. So I think I started P13 and then ended up P16 in the first lap. But yeah, a lot of people crashed, luckily then, and I climbed myself up to the higher position, which was the plan, but I didn't expect it to end up so well.
Well, it worked out in the end, and then going into the second race of the day, the more strategic race of the two, we got to see from yourself starting at the front of the class, quite a bit of battling early on, albeit in the end, I think being given the elbow by a couple of the faster drivers.
Yeah, that is what I said. At the first lap, I'm still a bit too careful because I know I don't have the full pace that I want yet. So yeah, a lot of people keep overtaking me in the first lap, and what I said, I don't want to crash, so I just give them room, but then I give too much room, and then basically people keep overtaking me in the first laps. So yeah, I'm searching then for that spot where I can say, now I can stay comfortable, and if there's someone behind me that's somewhat the same pace, then I know the position is right. Yeah, and then it's still hoping for people to crash. And yeah, in the feature race, it was a great battle at a point with also a couple people from bronze, which was still, they performed as well as amazing. Yeah, with Jonathan at a point coming very close to me and overtaking me, but yeah, that I finally got some battles with some people and also keep defending a bit better. That is what I in the beginning couldn't do. So every race I improve, become better, and yeah, at the point I hope to be consistent in winning.
Or indeed little by little, but the great racing from yourself thus far and the respectful racing is something I think many tuning in have absolutely loved to see, and well, plenty out there will use as inspiration for their own racing. But I have to ask Gianni, now with our final sprint and feature combination complete, there's only one round to go, and it's the endurance race in 2 weeks time at Le Mans. How are you feeling for the season finale?
Yeah, this is the part where I want to shine with my team, of course, because Tristan was not able to join this one. I was not able to join the Silverstone. I think I was lucky to not join Silverstone as I saw the steward report. But yeah, I want to basically get the maximum results possible. Do the same as what I did today, combine everything, practice for it, and yeah, get the best results possible. And yeah, we have done the 2 hour on Nürburgring. I think everyone here can basically is not afraid anymore of a 2 hour race.
Oh, indeed. And we look forward to seeing yourself and Tristan go into that race without fear for Quad Dash Racing and end the season on a potential high. But just before we do let you go, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
Of course, you again, because your commentary is always amazing. And yeah, I think everyone deserves a shout out for just doing their best. And I think with everyone, I have a lot of fun on the track. Some people we maybe have some issues with, but that is always the case. Yeah, I had a nice battle finally with Stephen. With Jonathan, I had nice battles. The Matthew and Nigel, I had a very long time that I stayed behind him. Was very great racing as well. So yeah, I think everyone deserves a praise for this race as well.
Well, Gianni, praise aplenty for other drivers, but also major praise for yourself. Congratulations today on your brilliant racing, despite the sleep deprivation and also the lack of experience with the Mosport circuit. A great pair of results there, 2 P7s in class to go into the season finale on. And well, we look forward to seeing plenty more for yourself and the team at Le Mans in 2 weeks' time.
Thanks, mate. I see you as well in 2 weeks.
Have a fantastic evening. So hearing it there from our gold class driver of Gianni Tahar for Quad Dash Racing, and talking about the fact that despite the sleep deprivation from supporting racing in real life over the previous weekend and having very little time to get acclimatised to the circuit, only 1 hour, we made the most of that hour and we got to see a very consistent approach from the Quad Dash Racing driver today in a very tricky car, which have we seen Mercedes not quite comfortable at this circuit compared to some of its peers with its low speed oversteer risks, but still very little signs of difficulty from the Quad Dash Racing driver, and along the way enjoying some great battling in both races, albeit in the feature race finding a lot of the faster gold drivers very quickly are trying to make their way on past him and getting a few bumps and scrapes along the way, but still learning how to potentially be a bit more resilient or firm in his defence, and that's what it's all about. You've got to say every race as a learning experience, whether you're up front or battling to be inside the top 10, and that's the exact spirit that Gianni Tahar is embodying. I think we can all learn a lot from, and we definitely look forward to seeing how he gets on in the season finale. But now going on to our second interview of today. Well, you've all been waiting to hear from this man, there's no doubt about it, from the bronze class, and it is going to be none other than Matthew Cheverton. And as he now gets ready to join me in the interview room, we're going to hear his perspective on what was a phenomenal battle in the final race of the day, and also get to hear his perspective on the first race of the day as he gets ready to join me. And in fact, I do believe he will be available to join me very shortly. In fact, we do bring him in as of now. And we say good evening to Matthew Cheverton as he joins me now. And Matthew, well, it's been a long time coming in the GT3 League at Next Gen, but we have finally, in the fourth season, seen the Ford GT take a winning class. And you've been the man to do it. And what a pair of races today. P5 in class in the sprint, albeit a podium potentially there, but couldn't quite make it happen. And in the feature, 25 minutes of battling with Nigel Stock to take the win. You must be exhausted.
Indeed, I am. Yes, the dodgy, as I like to call it, the dodgy dinosaur has finally won a race. Oh, I can't lie, I've got the bloody shakes after that race. But yeah, the whole event has just been an absolute madness. The qualifying went surprisingly well. That's when the qualifying was fantastic. Was on pole for a short period and then unfortunately dropped down to third. It's a bit of an annoyance, but I'm alright with that. That's when I knew actually this Ford is actually going to be quite quick round here, because I thought it would be complete rubbish and I'd just be sitting at the back twiddling my thumbs. Into the sprint, very good start, kept myself clean, made some places. Again, pace was absolutely there. Unfortunately, just had some incident with one of the beamers. I think we both got it wrong into one of the corners and it sent ourselves spinning. And then I thought I was right at the back, but then to be P5, that's not too bad. And then the feature race, Jesus, I'm surprised I didn't mess it up in that 25 minutes. Fair play to Nigel, he just kept coming at me. It wasn't too bad, but because obviously the first half of the track, that's when I had to worry, because the BMW is so much better than the Ford, just because of the fact it's a much newer car, the aero is much better, the electronics on it, it just has that pace. And once we got down to the bottom of the straight, the power of the ancient V8 just shoved me down there and through the last corners and kept me ahead. But yeah, absolute brilliant race. I'm assuming everyone watching it enjoyed it. And yeah, first win in the GT3 League and first win for the Ford.
Oh, indeed, and what a way to achieve your first win in the GT3 League, like you say, and plenty enjoyed it in the YouTube chat in particular. And, well, let's just break it down a little bit, starting with qualifying. And like you mentioned, at one point, provisional pole in the qualifying session by 2.5 attempts, albeit at the midpoint, and it looked as though the circuit was very quickly evolving in the final 10 minutes, as though lap times just kept tumbling.
Yeah, like I said, the track evolution was quite surprising. We started off pretty rough, both myself and Jake, because the Ford is a bit of a struggling car. But yeah, we kept going. I was surprisingly finding myself time. I didn't actually know, because the Ford's so old that there isn't a time delta on the dash, so you just have to guess what you're doing. But then I kind of like that, because it means I'm not worrying about looking at a time and then I'm not messing things up. So I just kept going, kept perfecting the corners and the lines, making sure to get a great exit out of the bottom hairpin to have all I can down the straight. I think my best lap I managed to get a slipstream from one of the KFM cars, so thank you for that. And then ended up on provisional pole by 2/10. Got told that by my teammates, thought, okay, that's not what I was expecting tonight. But then, in the end, the modern superiority of the BMWs just got me in the end.
Indeed, a beat into the post the end of qualifying, but still lap time coming in at plenty as the session went on. And then going into our first race of the day, the rolling start did seem to be quite beneficial for the Ford. This car very quick in the low gears, but like you say, that first sector being very painful for the car with those long sweeping corners.
Yeah, like I said, the rolling starts are beneficial. The Ford just has amazing torque from the engine, so anywhere in the first, second gears, it just shoves itself like a rocket, which, well, as I've just discussed with other drivers, it's a bit annoying for them, because it means they struggle to get past. But then, first lap, I'd always take with a pinch of salt because everyone's bunched up. It's very easy to just keep on the back of someone, make them move if there's an opportunity. But then, yeah, as we were getting into the race, everyone was finding a stride, getting a pace. That's when you're noticing the pull they have through the corners, and you're struggling to keep up. I think, as well as both me and Jake have discussed, a lot of that for the Ford, you just have to keep going 110% every single lap to keep up with these guys, because it is that because of how old it is. The others could probably just drive off the lap with one hand and have a chill drive with sunglasses on, and we're here sweating like crazy trying to keep up with them. But yeah, once we get first half is that, but then second half, getting the slipstream, the thing just becomes a missile, and then gives you great overtaking opportunities into the last couple of corners.
Well, indeed, and well, speaking of the car being a missile, on that back straight, the Marandretti straightway, we got to see time and time again, whether it was in the sprint or the feature, no matter how good an exit your rival behind got, you would just be able to gradually pull away, and the slipstream meant nothing. So you always had that confidence there. But I have to ask, was there any pressure on yourself to come out of the hairpin at turn number 5 and think, I've got to nail this exit, otherwise the one strength this car does have will not be worth it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Every single lap, especially in that fight with stock, like, I generally, every time, the only thing I'm worried about is, like, I have to nail it, I have to do it. Because like I said, he could be 0.2 of a second behind me. If I get the exit right, even with that slipstream, he's just not getting me. In fact, a lot of the time, he would be, 0.3, 0.4 behinds. He'd close up a little bit in that corner, but then if I get the power down, I'm pushing another 2/10 behind him. And then we had one part in a slipstream of another car, and then, well, my car benefited fantastically, his didn't. I'm just watching me gain time on the car in front and him lose time to me. So yeah, literally the whole race, that corner was the key to literally everything, to keeping ahead.
Indeed, and executing that corner time and time again with absolute precision to get the most out of the Ford. And really coming on to the feature race, which I think really for yourself has been the highlight of the day of your season so far. We saw on the opening stint, the battle between yourself and Nigel Stock started to come alive, albeit you opted to pit quite early compared to Nigel. And then when leaving the pits, the gap between the two of you was only about 1.5 seconds. And then it all gradually started to come together. Did you always expect that Nigel was going to be perhaps the faster driver of the two of you when you were both running in clear air?
To be honest, I didn't. I mean, at the start of the race, I didn't even realise I was leading the class. It's only until I started, like, flicking around with buttons, I realised, oh, I'm leading the bronze class. And I, looking at my relative, saw a bunch of silver and golds behind me. I thought, oh, I've got myself a massive gap. But then I'd spotters telling me, oh, Nigel's done this lap time, it's like half a second quicker than you. Oh, he's gone a second quicker than you. And I'm like, okay, this is something to worry about now, because, well, I've only done 2 races this season. I don't know the pace of everybody. I've raced against Nigel before in the Endurance Championship, but he had a few issues and struggled in those cars, but everyone's good at one car, bad at another. And then, yeah, so he was catching me. Obviously, I pit early. That was just to the fact I was going to run out of fuel. The big V8 is a bit of a gas guzzler. And yeah, and then I came out of the pits. I was like, I got to take it slowly so I don't crash, but I've got to keep a good pace. I've got to catch him again. Then I had the spotters telling me, oh, he's doing 14s and that. I'm like, oh god, this is going to get interesting. You had someone watching his pit and telling me when he's off the jacks, when he's rolling out the pits. And yeah, it was literally, I saw him come out in front of me and I was like, okay, this just made things a lot more challenging. But then my tyres were warm, his were cold, and then he was on the brakes very early into that bottom hairpin. It was actually, for me, quite unexpected. The move I made on him was quite, not a planned move, it was more, oh god, he's hit the brakes early, I don't want to crash, alright, we're going for it. But luckily that was the move that sealed the deal for the rest of the race, and I think if I hadn't done that, then, well, I may have got past him, I may have not. Probably not, considering how quick he was behind me. I was just being a bit of a moving roadblock. So yeah, that was the move that sealed the deal.
Oh, indeed, an unexpected move, but one executed very well going into the hairpin, and with that win, it builds up a lot of momentum now indeed for Aztec Racing as a team before we head into the season finale in 2 weeks' time at Le Mans. How are you feeling for it, knowing that Le Mans, of course, has some incredibly long straights which the Ford GT will want to eat up?
Oh yeah, I've been saying to everybody out of this entire calendar, I've been looking forward to Le Mans. Like I've nicknamed the Ford the Mulsanne Missile because we did Road America, and just even in the slipstream there on that straight, it was an absolute monster. And I thought to myself, if it's like that here at Le Mans, oh, nothing's going to stop it. And obviously Le Mans quite wide as well, so I'm hopefully in a fairy tale land, it will be overtake after overtake, maybe get myself in the top 3 overall. But I can dream. But yeah, really looking forward to it. We do the track quite a lot. We've done many an endurance race there. We had a 24-hour one, I think, a month ago. We literally had a lap 2 instant, was 51st. Spent 12 hours crawling up on a massive comeback up to 6th. Unfortunately, we had another massive instant and ended up, I think, down in 30th, many laps down. Yeah, we're all quite experienced. I think myself and Jake are going to be running some special liveries for the Ford. I've gone and designed some tribute liveries in homage to the 1966 GT40s, so I'm looking forward to having them on the cars. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to it. Final race, you know, I have no chance for championship, so for me it's just go out, have some fun, see what I can do. So yeah, looking forward to it and looking forward to seeing what the Ford can do.
And we all look forward to seeing how you can make the Ford GT roar to life at Le Mans, and those liveries, I'm sure, are going to look incredible in the car. Indeed, anybody who's watched Ford versus Ferrari or Le Mans 66, depending on where you are in the world, will keep an eye out for the special liveries on the cars of Aztec Racing of Matthew Sheraton and Jake Pitt. But Matthew, just before we do let you go, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
Yeah, well, I'd like to thank the team itself, Aztec, done very well today. I'd like to thank the sponsors of the car. I'd like to thank specifically James and Gabriel. They were my spotters for today, and they were just telling me the gaps from the lap times of other cars, how to improve each corner, and then making sure I stayed out of any incidents. And yeah, they did a fantastic job and kept myself right at the top spearhead of the class, and then also taking the first win for the Ford.
Well, Matthew, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you join me in the interview this evening. Congratulations once again on bringing home your first win of the season in the feature in one of the most brilliant battles we have seen all season. In fact, in the entire history of the GT3 League, I would argue. And we look forward to plenty more from yourself and the team at Le Mans in 2 weeks' time. But until then, the best luck with the preparations. And we can't wait to see the Ford GT roar in your capable hands for the final time this season.
Cheers, thank you very much.
So hearing that there from Matthew Sheraton, the bronze class driver from Aztec Racing today, who in his own words, he may not have a shot at the championship, but he's going to have fun. And that's what it was all about today, taking the Ford GT and trying to take it to the top possible level. And it all started in qualifying with a surprise provisional pole, demoted down to P3 in the end when qualifying came to a close. But those were the glimmers of what was coming. And in race number 1 in the sprint, it didn't quite work out. An unfortunate incident or two costing Matthew the opportunity in order to finish the win, and instead bringing on home a P5, then going into the second race leading quite early on, and then being gradually caught by Nigel Stock. But on strategy, with the two of them in the end, came out with Nigel Stock ahead of Matthew, only to see an unexpected move into turn number 5 bring the lead back to the Aztec Racing driver. And after that, they were locked in to a battle for 25 minutes, and will come the end of it. The Ford GT, under the capable hands of Aztec Racing's Matthew Sheraton, has brought home its first ever win in the NXTGEN Racing GT3 League in terms of a Ford GT being on the grid and taking a class win. And well, could we see another one at Le Mans? Given the fact, in his own words, it's the Mulsanne Missile, I think we've got a very high possibility of doing so, and that's something we're going to very eagerly be looking forward to in 2 weeks' time. We're now coming on to our final interview of the day, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be going back to the gold class here to hear from Jonathan Cook as he gets ready to join me in the interview room. And it's been a difficult day today for Performance Link Esports as a whole, and well, for Jonathan Cook, no exception, as he now joins me in the interview room. Good evening to you, Jonathan, and well, it's been quite a difficult day for yourself and the team as a whole, but still a P5 in the sprint, a P6 in the feature. Pace is coming in the car. We got to see plenty of that with the qualifying session, but not the results to back it up today.
Yes, it's an odd one. First of all, just want to say thank you, obviously, for having me, and NXTGEN for hosting the league and the races. And yeah, look, I feel absolutely unbelievable in the car. The BMW felt amazing. You know, me and Russ both were doing quite well. The car just gelled with the track. I gelled with the car. It's funny enough, I've only done 2, maybe 3 practice sessions on this track before this race. I'd never driven on it before, so I was quite skeptical of it at first, but it soon sort of just everything just clicked. Even in practice, I matched my optimal lap time. I think I was only 6 thousandths away from it or something. So it just something just changed recently. I've just found all my form, all my confidence again. So it's just, I just need the results on track now. That's the only thing that's hampering me down. I don't have anything to show for it, I'm afraid.
Well, one thing you definitely had to show for it was that qualifying time for P3, and Stephen Wessels the only driver to hit a 14 with 14.7, but then it was the run to be who was the lowest in the 15 zeros and just missing out on the front row by 100ths in the end, but still a great qualifying lap.
Yeah, I mean, I was sort of struggling most of the session, really. I just couldn't find time. I think I was maybe overdriving it, or just the fact I had higher fuel as well. So when we were in practice, we could notice that, you know, doing consecutive lap times, and if you see your sort of tyre pressures getting above 1.86, it was, you know, the turning and the sort of ability of the car was really lacking. So it was very much of a decided to go, right, let's do 1 attack or 2 attack laps, then do a cool down lap, then attack again, you know, really get the tyre pressures back into range. And that's sort of the process I was going through. And then I was like, I'm really not struggling to get time. Russ went in for new tyres, so I was like, all right, I'll gamble on new tyres. And I think I only had 3 laps after getting new tyres, and I struggled on the first 2. And then I was following Russ as a marker for my last lap. I think he got caught up in his incident, the double right-hander or the double apex right-hander. But then I found all my time in the last sector, and yeah, it's quite an odd one. The last sector throughout all my practice has always been the one that's hampered me the most. I feel like the last corner is very hit and miss, whether I'm turning in too early or if I'm not missing the apex at all. And I just nailed it, and I think I was a 10th up coming into the last sector, and then after the last corner, I think I was nearly 4 tenths up. So I got it right for once, and luckily left it best till last. But and even the race, it was quite odd. I thought I'd be so slow in that last sector, but it was the opposite. I was actually faster than the guys ahead. So yeah, it is a strange race, but yeah.
Well, speaking of the races, in the sprint race, we did see you lose a couple of places at the start, albeit then battling on hard to try and make some further progress. But it looked so in the end, it was always going to be close between yourself and your gold peers, including the likes of, say, Gaz Williams and also Akram Zinoune, and that battling extending for the entirety of the race.
Yeah, I think the sprint race I'm probably more annoyed about than the feature, because I think I had the pace to be P2. I just couldn't get past them. They were quick in the right places. There's not really many places to overtake it. You know, you have to really be bold. And I'm sure you might have or may not have caught a really bold move where I went around the outside of the fast right-hander at the end of the lap on I think it was Victor. And it was I was really proud of the overtake, but it was just a classic example of how difficult it is to get past people. But my Achilles heel when it comes to racing is that I'm just terrible when I'm behind someone. I was trail braking too much into turn 3 in the sprint race. I can't remember what lap it was, and I just hit the back of Gavan Gardner. Luckily didn't take him out, but he unsettled my car, and then I lost 2 positions as a result of it. And then the following double right-hander ran into the back of Akram, and that actually did spin me out, that one. And yeah, that was just a sort of cherry on top of the cake when it comes to sort of power battle. I feel like I'm very much a Damon Hill-esque or a Colin Turkington, where if I'm in clean air, I can put in really, really good lap time and be really consistent. But as soon as I'm behind someone, it's really difficult for me. I think in the feature I was doing 1:14.9s, I think for about 3 laps in a row, and then I caught Gianni, and then my lap times dropped to 1:16.6 because I was then obviously stuck behind him and couldn't find a way past for part of the track. So it just really shows how different the pace varied when you're in clean air and when you're actually stuck behind someone, you know.
Oh, most definitely. And that contrast of clean air versus dirty air was something that hit a lot of drivers over the course of today. And going on to the feature race and talking a bit about tyre management, I know you mentioned to me in the build-up to today about the fact protecting those rear tyres, but I have to ask, how do they feel over the 60 minutes? And also, did you notice a difference once you'd spent some time behind another driver in terms of just how hard you could push them?
To be honest, I was managing it really well, so I wasn't having too high pressures, even stuck behind 3 or 4 drivers. You think sort of being behind the queue of cars, you're getting all the dirty air and all the heat from the exhaust, and you're not getting as much clean air on the tyres. But actually, I didn't have any issues sort of battling them. It was only sort of after I had my contacts that, you know, that's when the start of the heat really ramped up in the tyres. My spin with Jamie Dory just left it sort of vulnerable because the GT3 cars are very delicate on the tyres, especially when you overheat them. You have to take the next few corners very safely, otherwise they will just spin you out. And I think that caught me out into double right-hander again. And I just made the decision after that, I'll just pit, I'll do an undercut, I'll get new tyres. And as the race went on, when I was in clean air, the car just got better and better. You know, as the low fuel came in, and you know, we're getting to the end of the stint, you know, the tyres felt absolutely fine. I was able to do my best laps right at the end, so didn't have any issues. I think when we did the magic numbers, Russell always does that, the tyre wear wasn't actually that high. It was more the temps that was the damaging part. At least in the Beamer, as soon as you got above 1.85 on, say, the front left, you almost had like no turning when it came to the right-handers. So tyre wear was an issue, but definitely the tyre temps was the thing that needed to be managed in both races.
Tough calls having to be made with regards to looking at after the tyres in each race, and like you said, those temperatures are proving critical today. But still, coming towards the end of the feature, and what was in the end a little bit of a tumultuous ending, at one point finding yourself ahead of Stephen Wessels, and then a brief mistake right at the end, seeing you drop behind. But a feature race where things just didn't seem to want to click at any point.
Yeah, just I think it's just my luck. As I said last time, if I didn't have bad luck, I wouldn't have any at all. And I think Russ is now starting to take on my bad luck as well. So I'm not rubbing too much off onto him, because he's trying to fight for a title, and he's obviously taken a big hit this round because of the instance he's had. So it's just it's annoying because, like I said, I felt amazing in the car, and my pace was good as well. It just I almost need to get to the front quicker, or, you know, getting clean air quicker, you know, just so that I can actually go at my own pace, you know.
Well, still, speaking of trying to turn things around, we've got one more round to come in 2 weeks' time, and that's the endurance finale at Le Mans. How are you and the team feeling for that in terms of wrapping up the championship season?
I think Russ is looking forward to it. I don't think I've ever driven the full Le Mans 24 hours circuit, at least not from my memory. So it's going to be another, so I'd say about half a track I'll need to learn. I could probably sort of figure out the first part, but I suppose I'm looking forward to it. I think I've done 1 2-hour race this season. I think Suzuka got taken out, but I did finish the race, and I didn't do the Nordschleife. So I'm almost going to say it's my first 2-hour race I'll be doing. It's a shame I'm not in contention, but, you know, the bigger picture is that I need to help Russ as best I can. So yeah, shall see.
We definitely look forward to yourself and Russell taking to the grid for the season finale 2 weeks from today. But just before we do let you go, Jonathan, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast?
Yeah, thank you to everyone at NXTGEN who obviously puts together the calendars and admin, stewards, everything. You know, everything at NXTGEN's run very well. So reason why you're sort of recommended to Community and Esports League by Motorsport UK. And then obviously yourself, Paul, if there is any talent scouters listening in, Paul is an incredible commentator, and you'll be able to listen to him at Snetterton this weekend, and sign him up for more things, because he's a great entertainer and he's very professional as well as he does it at the same time. So make sure you listen to Paul this weekend. Is it the Equip series, Paul?
Yep, that's correct. I'll be covering that as part of the media team from what I believe. Goodness me, now you've put me on the spot here. I've got to remember this correctly.
You got your cheeks red. You're blushing.
A little bit, but I'll be part of the Live Sport Now team, and you can catch them on their YouTube channel this weekend. But coming back to yourself, Jonathan, that's very kind of you to say.
Yeah, honestly, mate, every time I love watching the next gen sort of broadcast back, even the NXTCC that I no longer participate in. Having a good commentator really makes a difference between actually enjoying watching it, and especially when you're watching them commentate over your battles as well. It also makes it a bit more fun. So one thing I did want to say is that Performance Link are we're hiring more drivers as well, so hopefully for NXTCC and for NXTGEN GT3 next year, maybe even the Proto next year, next season, hopefully we'll have more drivers on the grid, and maybe we can play some tactics that KFM like to do on us as well. So I'm really looking forward to bringing some more people into the championship as well, and seeing, I guess, how Performance Link can continue to grow as well, and help the next gen community thrive.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you join me as always, Jonathan, in the interview room. Congratulations today on your performances, albeit perhaps the results not quite where you wanted them to be, but still that pace absolutely shining high, and that qualifying lap something to always remember before you head to Le Mans. And we look forward to seeing the story of Performance League Esports complete itself in the season finale 2 weeks from now. But until then, we wish yourself and the team all the best in your final preparations for round 8 of 8.
See you later. Bye.
So hearing it there from Jonathan Cook for Performance Link Esports, and what a day it has been for him. In the fact, in qualifying, looking very strong despite the fact not having too much time to practice around this Mosport circuit, but still enjoying the circuit and definitely enjoying the car at its very best. Not quite able to put it on the front running, missed out by a couple of hundredths, but still very pleased with the way the car was flowing. And then going into the races, in the sprint race, frustrating the fact in a long line of 4 cars in the battle for P2, just wasn't quite able to find an opportunity to break on through, although the pace of the car was there for second place, and we did see that time and time again. And then going into the feature race, more of a concern around tyre temperature rather than tyre pressure. And, well, as we went deeper and deeper into the race, particularly on that tyre wear starting to build, having to be wary of those temperatures and making sure they didn't go too high, otherwise the car would be prone to a significant amount of understeer. But then it was all perhaps for naught with those incidents in the midpoint and the late portion of the race, seeing Jonathan's race come to an unfortunate drop down the order, and with it, in the end, fighting for P6 of the class. But still, he'll look to end on a high at Le Mans, as will Performance Link Esports as a whole, with their team contesting what is the top 5 of the team's championship, and with Russell Fowler, his teammate, contesting the Silver Class Drivers Championship title. And we look forward to seeing how all the stories come together in the season finale. But until then, the preparations are going to be much under the way by the team, and we look forward to seeing how those preparations come to fruition 2 weeks from today. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our interviews for this round. We heard initially from the Gold Class driver from Quad Dash Racing of Gianni Tahar. Then we heard from the Bronze Class driver Aztec Racing of Matthew Cheverton. And lastly, we just heard from Performance Link Esports' Gold Class driver of Jonathan Cook. Congratulations to all for their performances today, and thank you to them as always for joining me in the interview room. But now with that, it is time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show and you're perhaps sat there right now thinking that you want to be on the grid on a future Next Gen Racing series, or you just want to know a little bit more about us as a community and what we do on both the virtual and the real world circuit, well, why not firstly check out our official website. That's at www.nextgenracing.co.uk, and as our website appears on screen currently, the home of Cleveland and Fair Sim Racing for all, and we've been hosting leagues now for the best part of 17 years, and as we continue to go from strength to strength, our attention has turned more and more onto the PC platform in particular and iRacing, but still we've got plenty in the pipeline for the remainder of 2023 and onwards into 2024, and we'd love to have you as part of the journey at Next Gen Racing. Alternatively, if you don't want to go onto our website and you're more of a social media person perhaps, well, we've got just the ticket for you in the form of our Facebook group, and that may be found at facebook.com/groups/NextGen Racing, where you can find out all about our series and more. And when we say more, find out a little bit more about our staff and administrators, with a good number of them off of the virtual circuit and on the real circuit being track marshals, or alternatively real world race drivers. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, attention now turns to the season finale. And with there being a 2-week gap between this round and the next one, it provides our drivers plenty of time to get ready to go racing for the final time this season. Round 8 of 8 will take place at the Circuit des 24 Hours du Mans on Wednesday the 4th of October 2023. Save the date because all of our championships are still open in terms of the contest. In the gold class, it's Stephen Wessels who will hold a reasonable lead, but he'll know that he'll need to take the win if he wants to come home the gold champion as a guarantee. In the silver class, it'll be Sergio Gonzalez-Martin who leads ahead of Russell Fowler based on provisional results, and the two of them, they'll be looking to go toe-to-toe for the ultimate glory. And in the bronze class, Nigel Stock is in control, but could there be one last twist in the tail? We'll have to wait and see. And that team's championship was KFM Motorsport, who are 1-2, but can anybody spoil the KFM Motorsport party? All that more will be coming up 2 weeks from today, but until then, thank you for tuning in. We've been Next Gen Racing. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as British Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.